If somebody is talking too long, you usually will cut them off.
I'd like to call the July 10th, 2024 Board of Selectmen's meeting to order at 6:30. Mr. Pinio, do we have need for a non-public session?
Madam Chairperson, we do 3 items, RSA 91A 3B, hiring, 91A 3D, consideration of the sale of real estate, and 91A 3 lowercase l, consideration of legal advice.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, the minutes of June 5th.
Madam Chair, I have one correction here on page 5.
Okay.
About 2/3 of the way down where it says, Mr. Harriman, halfway in that top line where it says roundabout was the main issue, should read roundabout was the main topic of discussion.
Okay. I have a couple of changes. First of all, I would like the public comments that were emailed to us or emailed that they be attached to the minutes. Also, I noticed on this set of minutes that we tabled the May 22nd minutes, and we need to add them to the next agenda. On page 3, after the first motion, first, Mr. Danu, the person is Dave Bowers, and Bowers is spelled B-O-W-E-R-S. And page 19. Page 19. Okay. For top of the page, Mrs. Murray, the second line, grandfather should say renewed. And on page 20, it is, let's see, it's the second time I'm speaking, about halfway down the page. And you're going to go to the bottom of that paragraph, and it says, nutrient sampling will take place in 2 streams entering Winter Harbor. And then I want everything removed until it says, based on the draft of the Wolfeboro Bay Management Plan. And that's all I have. Anybody else have any corrections or changes?
Yes. On page 15, under E, the second reference to Mr. Deshays, the last word should be trip, not trips.
Okay. I want to also thank the secretary. This was a public hearing, and she took excellent notes, and it took a lot to get all this put together for us, so I appreciate that. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Sorry, Dave.
Okay, so I've got Brad, and I think I heard Dave. Did you second? Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, next one are the June 19th minutes.
Madam Chairman,
Yep.
page 9, 3/4 of the way down the page, Mr. O'Brien says educated guessing should replace the word is and with regarding the spring-summer programs.
Okay.
And then right after that, just a typo, replace LOKS with looks, LOOKS. Aside from that, I'm good.
Anybody else? I have a change on page 13. It is, I'm speaking, it's the second, you see the 2 black bullets now. We've got the white bullets, bullet 1, bullet 2. It says 100 people attended a public forum, and what it should say, the compact roundabout, it should say the mini roundabout was not available for discussion. And 17. Okay, on page 17, Mr. O'Brien's speaking. The first bullet says, money accrued from the Libby docks through. It's the landing permit fees.
Where are you, Linda?
I'm on page 17. At Libby trustees meeting, you're speaking, and it's the first bullet. It says, money accrued from the Libby docks through, and it is a landing permit fee. That's how we get the money. It's not
Fine.
dues.
No objection.
Okay.
No objection.
Okay. And then we're on page 19. Again, I'm speaking about the middle of the page to the last sentence of the page, or the last, next to last sentence, it will say the results with links to the newsletter along with the Wentworth Watershed Association, and it should say, and the Lake Winnipesaukee Association websites. And that's all I have. Anything else? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
Move to approve as amended.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Paul, second by Dave. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All righty. Moving on to public hearings. The first one, the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, July 10th, 2024, on or about 6:30 p.m. in the Great Hall of the Wolfeboro Town Hall, Wolfeboro, New Hampshire, to consider the application for the issuance of an alcohol beverage permit to Back Bay Hockey to host a Howl at the Moon fundraiser on July 13th, 2024 at the Pop Whalen Ice and Art Center located at 390 Pine Hill Road from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. All righty, I'll open up the public hearing. Is there somebody who'd like to speak to it?
Good evening, Victor Drouin, Back Bay Hockey. That event has been moved. I think Amy was going to change that to 8/24 is the change on that date. So it's Saturday, 8/24 at 7 o'clock at Pop.
So
But it's a
August 20th.
fundraiser for Back Bay Hockey Association and for Pop Whalen Ice Center.
So it's August 24th from 6 to 10, or did you change the time? 6 to 10, okay, just the date. All righty,
Thank you.
okay. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to give any public input? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Board members?
Madam Chairman,
Yes?
just a question for Chuck. No conflict on that date? You're good? Up there. Thanks.
So they went through the calendar, and there's nothing else going on in town that day.
Okay, thanks.
Board members, any other comments, questions, concern? Hearing none, will somebody give me a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the alcoholic beverage permit, Back Bay Hockey, for
August 20.
8/24/24, 6 to 10 p.m. at the Pop Whalen Ice and Art Center.
Do I have a second?
Second, and then another question.
Yes?
Insurance is all set? There was just a note in the packet that we needed to get insurance, so you're good?
Yeah, I talked to Amy, and Amy told me it was good.
All right, good.
I
I just wanted to know. I just had a note in my packet, that's all.
Yeah, we had submitted that earlier this week. I think she got it Monday, so she has the cert on file.
Okay, thank
She
you.
does. Any other questions or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All righty. I'll open up the next public hearing. The Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, July 10th, 2024, at 6:30 p.m. or for the acceptance of unanticipated funds for an amount awarded that is less than $10,000 in accordance with RSA 31:95-B relative to a donation of $5,000 to the town of Wolfeboro to be used for the assisting the Wolfeboro Waters Committee in efforts of sampling streams that could deliver nutrients to our lakes, contributing to cyanobacteria bloom. Do I have anybody who'd like to speak to this public hearing?
Certainly, Dana Huff. First of all, I want to thank the board for nominating me for Wolfeboro Waters. I'm enjoying my assignment with the group. I'm also on the stream assessment subcommittee, and in order to do quantitative measuring, we need to accurately measure flow coming from the streams into the lake, so that once we get a concentration of constituents of concern, then we can use that concentration times the flow rate and come up with an actual loading in pounds per day. So it'll help calibrate the models that are being done in the watershed evaluations. And we have 2 sites in Winter Harbor, and then we have 2 sites in Wolfeboro Bay. And so we were graciously approached by someone who wanted to donate $5,000 for primarily the purchase of the stream flow measuring equipment, along with its supporting accessories, paying for laboratory analysis of these 4 tributaries for a period of 2 years, and any other miscellaneous supplies that we may need in order to make this effort successful. So we are hoping that the board would accept this donation to be used for these purposes that I just explained. Any questions?
Anybody in the audience who'd like to give public input to this? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Board members, do you have any questions?
That's a big wow.
Move to accept a donation of $5,000 to the town of Wolfeboro to be used for assisting the Wolfeboro Waters Committee in efforts of sampling streams that could deliver nutrients to our lakes, contributing to cyanobacteria blooms, and all of the equipment and 2 years of monitoring were donated.
Second.
Any other comments or concerns? Hearing none, I have a motion by Brian, a second by Paul. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All righty. We'll move along here. The Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, July 10th, 2024, on or about 6:30 p.m. for the acceptance of unanticipated fund. Oh, wait a second. I'm not going to do this one. I'm going to step down.
There you go.
Start reading it. Dave?
There you go.
Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, July 10th, 2024, on or about 6:30 for the acceptance unanticipated funds for an amount awarded that is greater than $10,000 in accordance with RSA 31:95B relative to grant funding from New Hampshire Department of Business and Economic Affairs, Invest New Hampshire. Demolition grant in the amount of $76,512. Town of Wolfeboro to be used for the demolition of Pop Whalen Ice and Arts Center. This grant was applied for by the Friends of Pop Whalen as part of their donation commitment of $2.7 million. Somebody want to speak to that?
Yeah, thank you again. Victor Druin, Friends of Pop Whalen. We had come to you last April and had approval to file for this grant, for various grants, but we had filed for a couple, but this one was in the town's, could only be filed in the town's name. So since the money will come directly from the state, we certainly would want it applied to. We did the work and built it and chased it and got it applied for and won it. So we'd like for you certainly to accept it and apply it to. Our current balance that we have with you is $298,000, and the balance of $76,000 less We expect, our agreement is that we will have the balance to you by the 31st of this month, and so we anticipate that that other 220 will certainly be made to you guys in that time frame. So that would close out our commitment.
Okay, are there any questions from the board? Anybody from the public? Okay, close the public hearing. Somebody want to make a motion?
Jim, do you have any other explanations for this at all?
So as Mr. Druin stated, on April the 5th of 2023, the Friends of Pop Whalen came in front of the Board of Selectmen to discuss the potential of grant opportunities and ask permission to be able to apply for such grants. The board authorized that by a vote of 5-0, or 401 at that time, excuse me. And what I can tell you at this point about the grant is it is anticipated to go to Governor and Council 1st of August, I believe it is. The time frame to get this into the Bureau of Economic Development and New Hampshire Invest program is this Friday, so we need to have that authorization done tonight in order to meet that threshold. I would suggest, as I've noted in the memo to you, one of two options. Either they cut 2 checks for us, one with the balance of this grant to be put into an escrow fund, or allow them to reduce the check appropriation by the amount of the grant. That's up to you. It's been approved by the finance director and the treasurer. And the only other thing, when you make your motion, just authorize me to sign the grant.
Okay.
So the next Governor and Council dates are 7/24 and 8/7. So if you authorize this tonight and we get it into the town the state next week, we may make the 24th Governor and Council. If we miss that, it would be the 8/7 date is the anticipated second payout of where that is. So, you know, our request is, so there's a few ways we can do this. We could say we know this 76,000 is coming in the next 10 or 20 days. So how much does Friends of Pop owe you by 7/31? So do we owe you the full 298? And when we do that, we'd give you a check for 222, and then we would want the 76 escrowed, because otherwise the town has no way to repay us that money. So in order to close out everything with you, just by virtue of the fact that we have a hard date with you of 7/31, some of our fundraising is coming through MOUs, through the locker use agreements, so we're going to get paid over time. So we've gone and secured funding, so we have a loan essentially for the balance to ensure that you get paid. And so basically, you know, our preference is to pay you 222. The state hopefully would pay in July. If not, you should accept it. You would expect it the 1st of August. Or I can pay you the 222 plus the 76 in escrow. And so there's 2 ways we can go about this, and then you just have to give us back the 76 so we can pay off the lender. So,
Dave, can I make a motion?
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the grant from the New Hampshire Department of Business and Economic Development Affairs Invest New Hampshire Demolition Grant in the amount of $76,512. Have that create a reduction in the $298,000 that's owed to the town by the Friends of Pop Whalen, so that their balance due is approximately $222,000, and this will fulfill their donation commitment of $2.7 million to the town of Wolfeboro.
Second that.
Any other discussion?
Question? So, Victor, it sounds right. But we're approving a grant that hasn't been awarded yet. And I don't know how that works legally. So what happens if 724 comes and goes and it doesn't make the agenda?
It's my understanding we got a notice of award and we need to finish submitting our paperwork, which is the authorization from this meeting with the acceptance is the last piece. That's my understanding. So let's say the state doesn't pay, then I guess we would still owe you the 76,000 because it doesn't exist, right?
Got it.
I mean, that's, my thought is we get into August, September, and we get a notice from the state and says, hey, you know, sorry, Wolfeboro, we ran out of money.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happened last year, so
I'm not
we-
familiar with the authorization process, so if you're educating me by saying we have to authorize and accept, that I'm getting a nod from Julie behind you. You have to authorize and accept before you either get the money, that's fine. At the end of July, $297,000 is due. We're all in agreement on that.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there's actually it's a form that is due, that's signed by the town clerk, right? Authorizing that the board accepted, so the town clerk, it's an authorization, it's a certificate of authorization is what it is.
Yeah, so the town clerk will verify the vote which took place back in March of 2022 for the project, and will also attest to what happens here tonight to go in front of governor and council. All of that paperwork is already drafted in a folder in my office, ready for signature.
So it's just ready to go.
It's ready to go.
Good.
It'll
Okay.
be with them tomorrow by noon.
Cool. Thanks, Victor. Thanks, Jim.
Any other?
I'm not sure if Brian's motion included making me the signatory of it.
So we can add that in, and having the town manager be the signatory of the grant to be received.
Second.
You okay with that, Brian?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Thank you.
All right, on to the next public hearing. The Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen hold a public hearing on Wednesday, July 10th, 2024, at 6:30 PM, or for the acceptance of unanticipated funds for an amount that is less than $10,000 in accordance with RSA 31:95-B relative to the reimbursement for the installation of a fence in Kate Park for screening of the leased space for propane tanks from TCW Properties in the amount of $3,838. Is there anybody here who would like to speak to this? I'll open up the public hearing. Mr. Pinio, do you want to give
Sure.
some background on this?
So we agreed to install a fence with Mr. Ford in Cape Park to mask the propane tanks. We secured a series of quotes. Parks and Rec had a fence installed. The invoice has been paid to the amount of $3,838, and this is simply a reimbursement mechanism to be able to accept those funds so we know how we received them.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak to this public hearing? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Board members, can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we accept anticipated funds for an amount that is less than $10,000 in accordance with RSA 31:95B relative to reimbursement for the installation of a fence in Cape Park for screening of the lease space for propane tanks from TCW Properties in the amount of $3,838.
Second, for purpose of discussion.
Okay. Brian?
So I like the project. I think the fence looks really good. I think that it's not as intrusive as people were concerned about. It actually goes behind our vegetation in most of the area. It covers the propane tanks. It probably should be in the front, finished to match the existing deck work that's there at the Downtown Grill building. But in spending time in the park and talking to citizens and some members of the town, for lack of a better phrase, it looks half-baked, meaning that we have open spaces in between, we have a little homemade panel piece that is covering the ends of the tank, we still have another air conditioning compressor unit that is exposed by our new wonderful handicap ramp. So I just want to implore upon the board that I think that going forward we should address this. It would be short money and we should finish the project. And my biggest concern is there is now area where kids and dogs and young people can go behind this fence, get at the tanks, get at the wiring, and before, when it was completely exposed, you could see what was happening there. Now you can't. So when we have a big event at the town docks, this becomes something where, I just think it's best if it's cordoned off. If all those things are cordoned off, it's a safer solution.
Any other comments from board members?
Just a question.
Sure.
Would it be the expectation that TCW Properties would pay for that incremental work?
No, that's why we did it in the manner we did. This is all in relationship to what is installed now. The board would need to put it on another agenda if they would like to talk and maybe decide to put the added fencing in. This makes it very clear what is his.
Okay.
And we don't get into, oh, no, that's yours or mine.
We forgot to tell you needed to do extra work. Yep, got it.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, I'll ask you now, do you want me to put this discussion on another agenda?
I would say yes.
I know you would. Does anybody else?
Yeah, never hurts to discuss,
Okay,
other things around that area.
all righty. Ed would like it. Everybody else okay to put it on the agenda? Has anybody got any issue with that? All right, I'll put it on the next agenda, or the one after, depending upon how large the next agenda is. All right.
Just another question. Would it be our responsibility to paint the fence?
No, it's, if you read the lease, it's his fence.
Okay,
And then we're going
just
to
checking.
approve the lease.
Just checking.
Yep.
So in the next discussion, we're not going to suggest that we paint the fence for him or he paints the fence for us. It's just an added incremental fence.
That's what my understanding is,
Okay,
because all
that's
the
good.
other is spelled out in the lease
Right.
that we're going to do. So we're
Just
only
checking.
going to be talking about those other areas and the issues around adding any more fence. Okay? Any other discussion? All right. Let me open up the next public hearing. The Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will conduct the first of two public hearings in accordance with RSA 41:11 on July 10th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. at Wolfeboro Town Hall, Grade Hall, 84 South Main Street, Wolfeboro, New Hampshire, to accept public input on proposed installation of a crosswalk at the entrance of Taylor Drive to cross Bay Street, to install and maintain, to be installed and maintained by Taylor Community in consultation with the Town of Wolfeboro Public Works Director, and I believe in the motion was also with the Police Department. Is there anybody who would like to speak to this public hearing? We had a discussion about this at the last Board of Selectmen's meeting. We talked about line of sight, we talked about speed, and we are required to hold 2 public hearings on this, and then we will vote at the 3rd meeting.
Linda, we also spoke about,
Bobby.
we also spoke about my concern about having a private entity maintain a crosswalk.
Thank you, Paul, for adding that. Bobby?
Hi, Bobby Budman. Just after listening to everything that happened at the last Select Board meeting with the crosswalk and going over and driving and looking at it, obviously the crosswalk is needed, but we used to have, in the back bay over there, we used to have sharrows on the road, and sharrows slow people down. So I'm wondering if we can put sharrows of people walking back on the road when the crosswalk goes in to protect the people utilizing that crosswalk.
Thank you. Is there any other public input?
Yeah, hello, Linda, this is Suzanne.
Yes?
Is there a period of time on this? Is this for eternity, or is it for 50 years, or what's the time frame? Thank you.
I didn't understand.
All righty. Any other comments or questions? All right, close the public hearing, and it'll be on another agenda. Okay. All righty, next item is the bulk vote. And I need a motion to remove under property tax refund and abatement 693 Governor Wentworth Highway 2023 and 2024 tax map 182 lot 10. There was the form sent to us had an error, and it will be on the next agenda.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All righty, on the bulk vote, weekly manifest, June 21st, 2024, $393,871.96. June 28th, 2024, $3,071,434.68. That's large because we had a payment to the school district. July 5th was $666,562.32. We have property tax abatements, property tax credits and exemption, a raffle for the Wentworth Watershed Summer Kickoff Raffle, and that's it. Can I have a motion?
Move to approve bulk vote items A, C, D, and B, number 2.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion by Paul, second by Dave. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, opposed? We have no board and committee appointments. New business appointment, Wolfeboro Waters to provide an update on cyanobacteria, and that will be done by Julie Brown, a member of the Wolfeboro Waters Committee and the executive director of the Wentworth Watershed Association. Julie.
Hi. Good evening. Thank you for asking me to come tonight. I've been asked to give an update about what's kind of going on in town with cyanobacteria and what Wolfeboro Waters is doing about it, as well as the lake associations. So that's a big topic. I'm going to try to be as succinct as possible, happy to answer questions to the best of my ability. Cyanobacteria, as you should know by now, is a blue-green algae, and they're bacteria, and they are one of the oldest living organisms on the planet, and they do naturally occur in all water, fresh and salt water. So they're important to the ecosystem. However, problems arise when they multiply in response to sunlight, increased nutrients, fertilizers in the water, and which results in blooms, we call blooms. Just like when you water a house plant and feed a house plant, it grows more rapidly, algae responds in a very similar manner. So with increasing temperatures and increased development in Wolfeboro and lakes throughout the country, we are seeing more and more blooms. They are happening more often. There's data to support that. They've always happened, but they're happening more frequently. So what are we to do about it? New Hampshire has over 1,000 lakes. We have, the Department of Environmental Services has a fairly small staff considering the number of lakes. And Wolfeboro is very fortunate to have a lot of lake associations that care about the waters and a lot of citizens that care about the water. And Wolfeboro has been doing in my opinion, a fantastic job at trying to step up their game to protect the water quality of the lakes we love in this town. And I think this partnership is being showcased through the Wolfeboro Waters Committee. So thank you for appointing it. We work very collaboratively with all the different lake associations and private citizens, as well as with the Chamber of Commerce. We're all working collectively to try to be comprehensive and cohesive and to plan ahead. The goal is to act now. There's a kind of a canary in the coal mine happening now, and the good news is people are paying attention. I think we've done a really good job at communicating what's happening, working with the state, with Department of Parks and Rec, and through our communication channels with the lake associations and through Wolfeboro Waters to inform citizens about what's happening, and people are paying attention. I don't want to be doom and gloom, but I want to keep our children, our kids, our senior citizens, and everybody else safe, but those are the most vulnerable. So when cyanobacteria there's 5 primary suspects in terms of species of cyanobacteria that are known to be found in the lakes here in Wolfeboro. Those 5 cyanobacteria species can become toxic. It doesn't mean they're going to, and it doesn't mean that we can predict when they're going to and when they're not, and that is part of the frustration of the townspeople and us. We're doing the best we can to teach people to look before they leap, to understand how to identify what they're seeing, a reporting protocol that says if you see something, say something. I know, guys, sorry, it's not, that's the Homeland Security, but also very much so the same with lakes. Don't get in gross water. If you see something that looks scummy, don't get in. So it is the responsibility of individuals to assess, we are a live free or die state, to assess what they're getting into, but if the water has toxins in it, it can lead to liver failure in pets if they consume the water. If it becomes aerosol, there's correlation and research showing it leads to some things like neurological disorders like ALS, et cetera. Lots of research is being done throughout the country. I actively attend the North American Lake Association conferences and get the up-to-date research all the time. We bring it together, we talk about solutions. So Wolfeboro Waters has been working really hard to inform the citizens, and we worked with Wolfeboro PD, which is great, thank you so much, that we get calls into dispatch if there's something seen. And one of us gets called, we'll go collect samples. Bree and myself, Bree is from Lake Winnipesaukee Association, or myself, or Warren Muir, and a whole cohort of people on our assessments team will look through microscopes, we'll take samples, we'll do toxin strip tests to try to figure out what's going on. We're trying to do some cutting edge research with some of the funds behind the scenes to try to figure out more than what the state's doing. So we are trying to figure out what the DNA is of particular species that are blooming actively in our lakes to figure out if they are more likely to become toxic or not. So we're doing our part to try to engage and educate, but the missing link is the activate. We really need citizens, property owners, throughout the watershed, the whole town, anywhere you live. If you own property, you can do something to be part of the solution. And those solutions are many. Some of them are really simple, which is not fertilizing, picking up pet waste when you walk your dogs anywhere, those things create nutrients that get rushed in through stormwater. Stormwater mitigation is really important. We need to slow the flow and get the water infiltrated before it hits the lakes. Stormwater carries those nutrients, those fertilizers. In this case of lakes, it's nitrogen, but specifically phosphorus that leads to those blooms. We're trying to figure out if the phosphorus is historical phosphorus in certain locations from logging from days of old and even further back than the logging. And what we're seeing is the majority of it is coming from stormwater. So we've done a bunch of shoreline sediment samples to figure things out. We've looked at core samples that have been taken over time that cost tens and thousands of dollars, like in Lake Wentworth when we looked at it, the historical data. And really, it's infiltrating water on properties, not devegetating properties that are not necessary. Land conservation is one of the biggest things that can happen. I know the Wentworth Watershed Association actively tries to conserve properties that can help protect water. And in cases where land has been developed, looking at where the water flows when it's raining and figuring out how to infiltrate it. I would like to applaud the town in holding up their part of the deal with the stormwater regulations that were approved in 2022, in which the town said that on their properties, they would also adhere to that. And you did that with the firehouse, and we did some really great state-of-the-art stormwater treatment systems. And thank you, Fire Department, for being on board for that. And Public Works is working to get a really good maintenance schedule of the swales and understanding what to do with the, how often they need to be pulling out the sand on the roadside. We have a big problem in our town, and that is, I don't know how many miles of road, I don't want to give you the wrong number, but over 6 miles of road, at least in this town, are dirt. They're dirt roads, and camp roads are one of the biggest polluters of our lakes. 14? How many? Thank you, Paul. I knew I was going to get it wrong. At least I was on the short side instead of the long side. But there's 13 and a half miles of roads that are being maintained by private citizens who don't necessarily know how to do that. And so what happens, and they every year they end up bringing in loads and loads of gravel and sand to replenish their roads, their potholes. And if they're bringing in sand to fix the roads, that sand is left. And you know where it is? It's in the lakes. And it's in the lakes and it's carrying nutrients, et cetera. So I urge the town to think about how we can support. We started a road maintenance agent group, which roads the town's going to look at adopting in the future and paving. I think one of the misconceptions around roads is that if it's a dirt road, it's permeable. No, it's not permeable. It's not a permeable surface. It does the same thing as a paved road. It's the state considers those roads to be impervious. And so sometimes the right solution is actually paving them, which is shocking to hear me say that, but sometimes you need to pave the dirt roads. Additionally, thinking about the swales along the side, the maintenance, what's happening, and working collaboratively with DOT to do the right thing. I have found that DOT sometimes says when the water leaves their roads that they don't deal with it anymore, and I know the water from one of the roads flows directly onto my property, and I've lost 8 trees this year in my property from the water being routed onto my property. And as we get larger storms that are coming faster, like the one we saw today, I probably got 1 inch of rain in a half an hour. It was bone dry in Concord. But those really big bursts of rain wash things out very quickly. And so we need to think about erosion and what we're doing. So I've included a packet to include for public education what to do if you see a cyanobacteria bloom, who to call, how to identify it, what your steps are for actions. There's fact sheets all over our website, like Winnipesaukee website. We're collaborating together. We are a team, but without our lakes, we don't have a way or a lifestyle here in Wolfeboro. I know I live here because of the lakes. If the lakes are gone, I'm not going to be living here. And I feel like that's the same for a lot of our people, especially our summer recreators who come to enjoy the beauty of our region. So I urge you to continue to prioritize and fund projects and look to the future. Let's continue to be the example of the town that's doing the right things and making the steps and following our watershed management plans. So thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Any board members have any questions?
Madam Chairman, I just want to clarify something. Julie, I may have misled you, and if I did, I apologize. 69 miles of town roads. inside of that number is roughly 13 miles of roads that have gravel on them that the town has a responsibility for.
Oh, wow, those are town gravel roads.
Yeah. So then there's another, if you add up 109, 28, private roads, if you add those things up, the last time I did the math, it was another 45 to 50% of road miles. And if that's what you're talking about, that those, not only paved, but unpaved, are adding some stuff into the watershed, I just wanted to clear up the record for you. You know,
Well,
so
yes, and yes,
a lot
those
of it out
numbers,
there.
it's a lot, there's a lot of miles of
stuff.
roads, as well as roofs and parking lots,
So there's over
et
108
cetera.
miles of roads in this.
Gravel driveways.
You name it, gravel
Lots of
driveways
them.
also count, and some of those driveways are long. So there's some really good resources. We've had workshops with people coming to teach hands-on workshops on how to maintain a dirt road, how to do it properly, the importance of crowns, how to make sure that you're clearing the swales, making sure that those are actually working so the water flows off the road, and when to fix a pothole, et cetera, instead of waiting. It is not a unique problem to lake communities. They have huge problems with this, Lake George, Lake Tahoe, everywhere, because people have had historic camps. But as people are moving onto these into their what used to be camp properties or summer-only properties, and are turning them into year-round residents, they have to update their septic systems so they can deal with that kind of use. They need to look at how the roads are being used. And with climate change, what we're seeing is that we're getting a lot of freezing, unfreezing throughout the winter, where it used to be packed and you could just drive over that pack of snow and it wouldn't hurt the roads. And now it's icing, and so they're starting to add more and more, and the plows coming through are creating more problems. So road maintenance is becoming more and more expensive for these local road associations, but additionally, the loading that's coming from those roads is one of the #1 pollutants in our watershed.
And we do a poor job when there are construction projects, residential and large projects, and when even landscaping projects, private or commercial, we do a lousy job with silt barriers.
I agree.
They get put up early in the project, they fall down, get ripped out, get in the way, and we know the reason they're there. They're there because there's a potential water source within a short distance of it, and if they're not in place, we're doing detriment.
And until the land is stabilized through vegetation and replanted, so there's an article that talks about what is the value of a tree and how much water a tree uses and brings through it in a year, and when you remove a tree, how much water is not going into the ground, and it is quite impressive. It's something like 10,000 gallons a year that comes through that tree. So depending on the size of the tree, the species of the tree. So every time that we cut down trees and put something else up, I sound like Joni Mitchell, but if every time you cut down trees and you put up a parking lot or do something, you have to do something with that water. So if you can infiltrate it and get the nutrients out of it, our soils are fairly good in Wolfeboro. Not so great in the north side of Wolfeboro. They're very sandy and they don't do as a good job as filtering the water, but a lot of the soils on this side are better. So anything we can do to get the water to be reused, slow down as it's carrying the nutrients is a step in the right direction. So I'm always happy to answer questions, look things up, be a partner with the town, and continue to serve in my role, professional role, but also as my volunteer role for Wolfeboro Waters, to help continue to make Wolfeboro a leader. And we should continue on that trend and continue to fund projects and make regulations that protect water.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Jim, if we can put that packet on the town website on the home page, just so that people who hear the meeting tonight can go there and get it. Thank you. All righty, we'll move on. The next item on the agenda is Wolfeboro Single Track Trail Review. Jim, do you want to start off with this, or?
Sure. I had a meeting probably 3 weeks ago now with Chris Dow, who was interested in taking some corrective measures on a couple of trails out to the Abenaki ski area. He also wanted to discuss the concept of adding an additional trail. As we discussed the topic, I told him that I felt that the repairs that he was envisioning would be easily agreed to and be able to get across this year. However, I did have concern about the proposal for the new trail. I thought it was a little bit premature and needed to be discussed further. From that point, I sent him out to meet with Chuck Smith, Director of Operations, to review the trails. I believe Chuck pretty much came up with the same synopsis. However, the Wolfeboro single track is here tonight, I believe, to ask to have these trails corrected and as well to be able to install almost, I believe it's a mile of new trail. With that said, we're actively working on the trail map. We have received some correspondence this week. I haven't been able to dive into it, but the town-wide trail map is moving forward. It's in good progress, and I think somebody may be here to speak on behalf of this tonight.
Okay. Jim, should we?
Hi, Rudy Meyer from Wolfeboro Single Track. So I know Chris can't be here tonight. He's traveling for work. I know he had discussions last night with Brian, and I know he's also talked with Linda, so if there's anything that above or beyond that I can help with, I'm here.
Okay,
So that's,
thank you. Do we want to have Chuck? He
I think
went
it
out
makes-
there. Chuck, will you get up and give us what you saw?
So when I went out with Chris, we toured, look at my notes here. The first one we went to was Abenaki Down, where they cut the new trail, they separated it. So they want to rehook that trail, move it back into the woods a little bit, which is fine. It'll give them another trail up there, so they're not looping around and coming back up the other way. Then we went down to the bottom of Tomahawk, where it ended up right in front of a spray head. So they want to move everything at the bottom of Tomahawk towards the wastewater plant. And there's black eyes down there and a few others. There's a couple spray heads that are spraying into the woods when you come down on your mountain bike. And then we looked at the green trail, which follows Tommy Boy and Black Eye, and they're all going to end up in the same spot down by the north of the wastewater plant. But I love his ideas. It'll get better flow and get more people up there. A lot of easier trail than what they put in there prior. That's all I got.
Thank you, Chuck. Board members, anybody have any questions, comments?
Well, I agree with Chuck. I looked at his recommendation, and he says, I'm in total agreement with moving the bottom of Tomahawk away from the spray field. That makes sense. That's a safety issue. That's something that we need to do. Reusing the boardwalk would be acceptable to avoid a wet area. That creates a little bit of issue because, as a board, we have said we don't want wooden structures in the woods. So I'm not sure how we address that by going against what we just said. So that's just a question I have. Chuck believes that he's in favor of connecting Abenaki down. It would be built about 300 feet and wouldn't require any excavation, but some brush removal. He also said that he believes that the new green trail is a good installation, but he wants to wait till next year so that other work that we're dealing with right now can be finished this season. And I agree, this should be a slow process, not something that is rushed and we end up with more trails than we know what's happening out there. So I agree with Chuck's, and I thought Chuck did a fantastic job with this.
So the only thing you have open is the reuse of a wooden structure?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think,
The only question, the only question that my colleague had is, should we reuse a wooden structure? Everything else was okay.
Well, the only other issue is as a board, we've also said that we want a map in place before we go and install a lot more trails. And so, we haven't gotten to that point yet. It seems like it's becoming a very laborious to get the map built, and it might be because there's so many trails up there. It's not just bike trails too, it's cross-country ski trails and snowshoe trails and stone dust trails that are used for all sorts of purposes. And the stone dust trails are very important, and I've voiced this before. When I was in Sewell Woods the other day, there was a woman on a electric motorized assistant vehicle, and she was going through Sewell Woods, enjoying the woods fantastically, and we need the stone dust trails to be maintained in a good shape for that to happen. The same day, there was a little family, and they had a stroller for two, and they were sitting having a picnic. So the stone dust trails are multi-use trails for all purposes and all abilities, and so I think we need to make sure we focus on those as much as we do the individual trails for special types of biking and whatnot.
well, but we're not talking about any stone dust trails and what we're looking at tonight, so let's make sure that we clarify that for the public. I have no problem with the moving of Tomahawk Black Eye Tommy Boy. I think that makes sense. I agree with Brian. We want to get them as far away as we can from our spray heads. I question whether we want to add wood structures to the area. We in the past had said no. I have no problem reconnecting Abenaki down. I am not in favor of doing the new green trail this year. I would like to have that map completed and take a look at where the trails are, so I have a good understanding. I'd like to have another year of us working with the trails that we have before we add a long new trail. Chris did speak to me about how he felt it was important. He felt this was a beginner trail. It would kind of complete areas where families could go, but I still feel that we would be better off to have our map and to get a better understanding of exactly how the trails connect with each other, because we have cross-country skis trails, we have bike trails, we have snowshoe trails, and we've got spray fields, and so I would really like to see it on a map. Any other selectmen have any comments?
Madam Chairman.
Paul?
And this is not for an answer tonight, because I'm sure you got your cup full of a whole bunch of go-dos here. The only question I'd ask you to come back on is if you relocate a wooden structure, put it across a trail in a different place, are you putting it over a wetland? Are you diverting water? And if you are, why are you doing that? That would be a question I'd want to ask, just so that we don't need to answer it tonight. But
No, I could actually speak to that.
Okay,
too,
go
'cause
ahead.
We've done something similar in Sewell Woods, and we'll be doing something similar over at Fernald. So we have one of our board members works closely with DES, and it's kind of his job is working with wetlands. He's a wetlands expert. So it's called a boardwalk, and so what you do is you actually put a structure down. It all sits on top.
It's elevated above the wetland.
It's all elevated, so there's no removing of any material or disturbing of the wetland that it sits upon. And that's exactly the way the wooden structure that was originally put in was done. That followed all the proper way, the proper rules. It went over everything. So now that section of trail, just so you know, is kind of a mess, because now we have riders going through a draw, and it's wet because it's a draw. That's why that was done the way it was properly.
Is the bridge impervious or semi-impervious? Do you leave spaces between the boards?
It's a boardwalk.
Have you walked on the boardwalk at Sewell Woods?
No.
Yeah, it's a boardwalk.
Yeah, it's a boardwalk.
And that satisfies me. I mean, I haven't been up on those trails.
It's the same way that the bridge or the boardwalk that was taken out was built.
Okay.
They're all built the same way.
Yeah,
Same.
I got it. Yeah, something which would block water flow, divert water flow, that's not a good idea.
And that's why they're done the way they are.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yep.
I would feel confident too if, when we do things in wetlands on town property, if, other than just a single-track member using their expertise for environmental investigation, if there was an outside third party that would be involved in something like that.
Speaking again to that, you have to get a permit from the state. So it's the state that approves it. We just submit the permit.
Okay.
The state approves it, and they let you move forward.
One of the things that I talked to Chris about, and with these changes and additional trails, I would like them flagged, and so we know exactly where it's going. I know Chuck has walked it with him, but I'd like some flagging out there, because that's how we got into some of the issue this time was the trail. They kind of looked at the woods and they moved it instead of getting it flagged. And so whatever we come up with, whatever agreement we write on this, that they make sure they follow it. And Chris said that he would do that. So that I would be comfortable with that. In terms of the wood structures out there, this seems to be, we're putting wooden structures out there for a purpose to get from one spot to the other. The wooden structures that I had more problems were was to turn them around and twist them. They were part of the trail in terms of having a bridge so somebody could go underneath. It was a more elaborate design. So that's just kind of where I'm feeling. I do have a little problem of it being put on a stone wall, which this one is. So, Brad, do you have any comments on this?
Agree with the bullet points here and Brian's comments here of moving those trails, reconnecting Abenaki down, holding off on the new green trail until these other ones are done and we're get them done, up and running and stuff then before we do any more expansion. I'm still listening to a lot of the inputters regarding the boardwalk portion here. I haven't really decided on that one yet in my own mind. So that's where I'm at right now.
Dave, do you have any? No. Nothing for Dave? So, board, how would you like to move forward? Does anybody want to or do we want to talk about the boardwalk, or do we want to okay everything else and kind of think about the boardwalk?
The only comment, Madam Chairman, I'd make, if it's not a boardwalk, then there's no way to traverse the trail. There's no way to traverse the trail, and then the trail has to be taken and redirected, right?
They've already put in another trail.
This reinstallation of a boardwalk in a different trail system, if you can't reinstall it someplace else, then what do you do with that trail?
The boardwalk was over a stone wall, and they want to move it from the stone wall to an area next to the trail that exists now and put it over a wet area so that people can
So
ride
I support
over
that. So I'm just reacting to your question. I support doing that. If we said we don't want to do a boardwalk, then I don't know what we do.
It is the new, when we asked them to take down the boardwalk, are you telling me that where it goes now is in the wetlands? It's been rerouted. No, but the trail was rerouted, and is that reroute what's causing it to go through? This is why I want a map, okay?
So the trail, like how it was originally built and how we were hoping it was going to be put back, everything was right because it was out of the wet area. It was brought up higher because it's sloping area. So, and it went over all the wetland, it went over everything. So now everybody is using the original part of Tomahawk that was there that goes through a little draw. So that's just the way it is today, and all the wood is sitting next to it on the ground. So I think what the larger ask would be to put that bridge back as it was originally proposed without any permitting or anything we need to do. That's one thing. The other boardwalk, what we're talking about, is at the top of Black Eye and the bottom of Tomahawk to get away from the spray field.
And I
So
would
that's
support
a
that
separate, those
bridge.
are two different things.
Yes, I would support the bridge to get them away from the spray fields, because I think that's the most important thing that we do out there, is to get these trails away from it. I'm not sold on the boardwalk going to over the stone wall, because the trail was already rerouted. There's a trail there.
It's the original trail, and so that is a green climb trail, which was intended to be that 50, I'll say 25-yard section, is now difficult because of, we can't use it the way it was built. So now everybody's going like just nilly-willy, not nilly-willy, but there's a trail around everything.
So in other
That's
words,
not-
they're
that's not
cutting
great.
they're cutting their own trail.
No, it's the original trail of Tomahawk. This
Okay.
was the bottom part of Tomahawk that's always been there, but now everybody's using that as part of the green climb trail, the easy trail that's supposed to go up, now has a 25-yard section that is difficult.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying, because that was removed.
Well, if we do bullet one, that one we're all in agreement. That's the, yeah, it's the Tomahawk, Black Eye, Tommy moving it so it's away from the spray fields, and my understanding that includes a boardwalk to get it away. And are we all comfortable? It is of the pictures that we were given, it's this one that's flat to the ground.
Oh, yeah.
That one's flat
Yes.
to the ground, is the
Right.
one we're talking about by moving those trails. I'm okay with that. Because I think getting it away from the spray field is the most important thing out there. We shouldn't have anybody riding any closer than 100 feet from those spray fields. Are we in agreement with that? Or is there anybody who does
So-
not agree to that?
I'm good with that.
Okay. Reusing the boardwalk, I'll come back to that. Am I correct? We are all in favor of reconnecting Abenaki down. That is about 300 feet and will not require an excavation, just some brush removal.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
I'm good.
Paul? Dave? Okay. Are we all in agreement that we do not want to add a new green trail?
I support Chuck, yes. I think he understands the project and what's there better than we do, because he's living it right now, and I support him.
Yeah, I guess I look at it and I don't have a map. And we're just trying to understand now. I want to see that map, and I agree. I thank Chuck for going out and doing that.
Sure, the map, I mean, the picture of where it was going to go is on there.
I understand that. Thank you. Are we all in agreement that we do not want to build the new green trail? Does anybody have an issue with that
At this time, right?
at this time? Yeah,
We'll entertain that in the future, right?
yes. We're just doing what we're going to do
for
for
now.
this proposal.
Yep.
Yes. And another time, my feeling is if I have a map and it looks like there's enough room, I might not have any issue. So those three were all in agreement. What do we want about reusing the boardwalk?
Show me up there where the boardwalk would be reused.
Can
Because
you,
I'm just literally reading these words, reusing the boardwalk would be acceptable to avoid the wet area. So that means the boardwalk is avoiding a wet area. Where is it? Is that going over? a
It
wet
says
area?
reinstall, it's this one right here, okay?
I'm just using Chuck's
Yeah, but
notes
this
here.
is
Yeah.
the diagram to it.
Is that going over a wet area?
Yes.
Thank you. What would be the alternative if you didn't put a boardwalk over that area?
I would say that people would just continue to go through the mud.
How high off the ground is that? Just curious.
Probably about 3 feet at the most.
So we'd ask people to traverse down, go across some muddy, and come up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I think there's two options here, right? That's what you guys are looking for, the evaluation of two options. One, to reinstall it
Yes.
the way it previously was, traversing the stone wall, or secondly, to reuse it to span a wetland area.
Well, it's the same wetland area.
But it's a
So
different
instead
spot.
of moving it
bridges.
like where it is in this picture, it would be, from that view, it would be downhill about 10 feet. But then the rest of the trail, the whole new climb trail that was built, doesn't connect to it. It's all cattywampus, because the bridge wasn't there, in order to get from one part of the climb trail that was built through that 25 yards to continue on the climb trail, you're going around the stone wall, through the opening in the stone
And maybe you
wall.
don't even need
It's a mess.
Chuck,
It's not clean at all.
Chuck, do you remember seeing this? And what would you feel, would we be better off to put the bridge back over the stone wall or move it to the other side? It's very hard for us to picture it.
So when I went up there last year, I think it's better the bridge goes back, the boardwalk, because now it's wet up there all the time. I don't know if there's a spring there, but
Okay.
it hadn't rained for 2 weeks and it was still like a puddle.
Okay,
So it's like a hollow in there. If they put it back, that'll be better. I mean, it's all tire tracks and mud.
okay. All right, thank you.
It's about 3 feet wide? And 3 to 4 feet off the ground.
It's a green,
When you say green, you mean
It's a
beginning.
green, it was built as a green trail. Simple, low, very easy green. The entrance, the exit, the whole thing was. Now, it's like a blue plus.
I don't like it going over a stone wall, but if the whole area is muddy and this gets them out of the mud and it kind of flows with where it was designed. Yeah, the reason we asked them to take it out was when we signed the contract with them, there was no mention of this. And that's what we're trying to get to, is what you tell us and what we flag out is what we get. And so it was part of the misunderstanding that happened when this one was designed. I guess if it's a green trail and we're not going to build the other green trail, maybe we should just put this in.
I'm okay with it.
I'm good with it with this more explanation that just came out, so I'd be okay with reusing it on where it was.
Yeah. Ryan?
Yep.
Where are you?
Yep.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I just hope that we don't open a can of worms and then we'll have one here, 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 and then,
Well, my understanding is they can't do anything, and it will come back. And if we do a new green trail, they need to tell us if they're going to do any of this. We're not going to have this
But we
all of a
learned
sudden
here-
show up, and then we have to take it back out.
But we learned here tonight that, number one, you're not supposed to go over a wetlands and just walk through it. You got to put a boardwalk. Number two, you got to get a permit to do that. So I don't think, you might be exactly right that we could have them just popping up like, daisies everywhere, but I'm not sure that'll happen. Number three, we have a manager who is responsible for this thing. So I wouldn't worry so much about that. I was more concerned, and I wasn't around when you guys were discussing the wooden structure thing. I was just more concerned about us diverting water through wetlands. You're not supposed to do that. That's not a good thing to do. And that gets us in trouble.
And I guess I look at signing an agreement on how it was to go, how it was to be flagged, and what materials were to go in it, and that wasn't followed. And so if we do an agreement, I think that should be followed.
Yeah.
And that is kind of where I think Brian says this could show up and that could show up. So
suppose.
I'm with Brian. I hope that, and Chris said he would, we'll get it all laid out. We probably should write some document up on this, Jim?
Yeah, there's a series of questions that need to be answered, such as, are they doing this themselves? Are they bringing in a contractor to do it? There's a series of items based on the license agreement that we have to get through so they can do construction.
Does this give you enough
Yep, it gives me what I
to move
need.
forward? So he's going to work on an agreement for us to go
And does this
forward.
already have DS approval, and does it need DS approval?
Not a wetland.
Okay.
Well, we'll pass that. I think we've given the direction to Jim. Jim can put it in the format that we need. It will come back to us for our approval. And
I would say that anytime on town property, if we do anything in a wet area, we need a third party to designate whether it's a wetland, not a wetland, and what's happening there. I think we need a third party, like we would hire an outside engineering firm, we would hire an outside contractor for anything we do. I think that's the way that we need to do it.
You need a permit.
so you're saying before we go forward with this, you want the single track to get a third party to evaluate that? Is that what you're saying? I'm asking you.
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay. Paul, how do you feel on it?
Paul's concerned about the wetlands. I think we need a third set of eyes on it.
So I depend on Chuck, I depend on Jim, and I depend on the single-track people to tell us whether we need a DES permit for things. And if the answer is no, and we find out that the answer was supposed to be yes, then it's, we have to take it out. I'm just not sure we want to have this, you can't, you have to have a plan in order to do anything. I would depend upon Chuck, I'd depend upon single track, and I'd depend upon the town manager. And I think that there are pretty smart people who worry about this stuff in our town. So I'd go that way. If it needs a DES permit, you check. And that's not hard, it's not hard to find out. You just ask. And you said you have somebody on your team that is a DES person. I'm okay with that. Thanks.
I know that Chris told me that this work here is $150,000
Okay. Well, we're not,
in donations, so we want to make sure that if we're having more assets installed there for that much money, that they are done correctly.
I would correct you on that. Based on the information provided us, 160 is for the trail that is not being built. 23,000.
Well, I said all of this. I said this whole project that they brought to us was, he told me, in excess of $150,000.
well, wait a second. We're getting off. We're being asked right now. I'm asking people whether they want you answer your question. Nothing about money. Just answering that question. And I had gone to Brad. Brad.
Yeah, talking about the boardwalk here, the fact that you got to get a permit, I'm assuming there's a permit by notification, what you have to do, which doesn't come with any inspections or anything with DES at all. But I believe, we have Chuck out there that could, if he's notified of when it's going to be going on, you could go out there, put a set of eyes on it. The way I understand it too, the idea of putting these bridges in is to span, the sensitive area there, so we're not disturbing it at all. So it's going to be much less disturbance, be really no disturbance within the wet area there at all to get over it. So I'm good approaching it that way. As far as the third set of eyes being Chuck to go out there to observe when it gets installed, so that looks like it's all being done correctly.
Dave?
Well, the only thing I'll say is somebody mentioned that they have somebody on their board of directors, Dan Coons, who is a licensed soil scientist and so forth, and I'm sure that if he feels they need to get a permit, they will get one. So I don't have any issue with that.
I'm with you, Dave. I think that they have the person on their board that's licensed, and if he thinks there needs to be a permit, he'll get it. So I think we're okay, and then Chuck will be there, so I'm comfortable
I
with
think
that.
there's plenty of checks and balances on this.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm not worried about it.
Yeah. So we will not ask for anything else. Is there anything else in relationship to this? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. The ad hoc committee, citizens on the ambulance. And Jim, do you want to introduce this?
Sure. So just to reinform everybody, about a year ago, we put out an RFP for ambulance services. The estimate from the two vendors that came in made us ask the question, is this something that the town should try to run itself, or are we better off in maintaining a contracted service? We were able to come to an agreement with the incumbent, who is still providing ambulance service to the town of Wolfeboro. We moved into the warrant article season for this year. There was funding requested and approved to bring in a third party to evaluate the options which we have put together. And additionally to that, I think it's important, this is going to be one of the bigger decisions that we make as a community going forward over the next several years, and I think it's important that we get a citizens committee together to evaluate and help make the recommendation and be able to discuss it with the contracted firm that's going to come in and review what we've put together. You have received 7 individuals who are interested in this. They are laid out here in your memo with their letters of interest. I believe there's 2 of them here this evening, and I believe we also have 2 individuals online this evening. So that's where we're at. The Budget Committee, at their meeting on, I believe it was June 24th, did appoint Bob Lohman and Bob Tuffer to this committee. This board here has appointed Selectman O'Brien and Selectman Deshays to the committee. So we need to have 2 citizens.
Okay. What I'll do is, if there is anybody in the audience who is here who want to be on the committee, if you want to say anything to us, feel free to come on up to the microphone.
Good evening, Jim Dearborn, College Road, Wolfeboro. Thank you to the board, Manager Pinio, for allowing us to speak tonight. A little bit about myself. As most of you know, I'm a life resident here in Wolfeboro. In my adult life, all but 2 years of my adult life I've spent serving this community in a capacity at the fire department. I think I'm pretty invested in this community, and I think I have a unique and a valuable perspective to offer to the board where there's no learning curve with what we're dealing with here. And as Manager Pinio just alluded to, this is a major decision for this community. This is a lot of money being spent. And, you know, last year put the town in a very difficult position and increased the budget tremendously. As an example of my commitment to this, last year when this started, I attended every meeting that was hosted, whether it was for the budget committee or your board meetings, here listening and taking note to provide reasonable input as a citizen of the community. Ambulance study, ambulance budget this year, the costs associated with this, we're starting to see these elevated costs. I talked to a lot of members in the community that are concerned about the same thing. We need to get this under control. I think we need to find good solutions that are affordable to help you as the policymakers make good decisions moving forward to provide the best service we can in Wolfeboro at the best price. And right now, it's kind of hard to juggle that with what we were faced with last year with the ambulance contractor telling us that they didn't want to sign another contract, and you know what the rest is. But primary goal is for me to serve as the role as a citizen rep. And I know it's easy to associate me with my job I've been doing for a long time, but I would be pleased to be able to be on the committee and look forward to working on it. Any questions? Good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, and thank you to the board for allowing citizens to be on the ad hoc committee for exploring the future of ambulance service. I think it's a really important issue. I've lived in Wolfeboro nearly my entire life. My fiance's lived here her entire life. We're going to be married in September, and we care about the future of this community and the kind of services will be provided, and our children will be provided. I serve on the school board as the chair. I serve on the library board of trustees as the library treasurer, so I have experience of serving on committees and understand what our role is and what the role is of the people who manage the town and who bring recommendations to us and information to us and how we evaluate that. I think knowing your role on a committee is important. I also served on the New Hampshire Department of Safety's ad hoc committee for firefighter and EMT recruitment and retention. And that's a huge aspect that whether it's a private sector service that we would contract or a public service, that's a huge aspect of how we're currently in our situation. They have a shortage of EMS and firefighters across the state. Medicaid reimbursements and Medicare reimbursements haven't been changed by the state since 2006. When I was a state legislator, I worked a lot on retirement legislation for Group 2 workers, which would be firefighters and EMS who are part of a collective bargaining unit in a municipality or a city. So I have some understanding about how that aspect impacts a municipal service or a private service. I think the committee, though, and the town hasn't explored enough options, and that's, I don't volunteer for something unless I think I can actually add value. Otherwise, I'm just there to be sitting like a lump on a log. So I don't think the town has explored the option of a hybrid option, doing something where you contract with a service throughout the year and then supplementing during the busy summer months and having an in-house municipal service. That's something that can be possibly explored if a contract with a private contractor with a private service would permit. I don't think an exploration has been done about how we could possibly coordinate with other towns by creating a fire district. Other towns around us are dealing with the same exact thing. That's something that could be explored where we go to contract and 3 or 4 towns going together are going to get a better deal, economies of size. It's why our school district is able to be pretty efficient and effective with our budget. We have a K through 12 school system for 6 towns in the area, so it helps defray costs. So I think looking at it as either we do a private contracted system or we do a public system is not really exploring enough of the options that are at the town's fingertips. So that's something, if I was on this ad hoc committee, that I would advocate for the town to explore more is what are those additional options? What would it take? And is there potential and a possibility to collaborate and coordinate with neighboring towns, and how would that look? You can't create a fire district strictly just for the reason of an ambulance service. So it wouldn't do anything else other than manage an ambulance service, whether it was a public one or they would just negotiate the contract with the supplier. So I'm surprised that hasn't been explored yet. It's been done in Cheshire County, and it's been done by other towns around the state that either share a fire and EMS system or just EMS. It's something that could be done in our area. So I've spoken with people who are elected in Ossipee about them dealing with the same exact thing, their contracts going up, and I imagine Tufton Borough, who contracts with Stewart's, but most of their ambulances are out of Moulton Borough, they're probably dealing with the same thing because our Stewart's contract has gone up. So I appreciate the opportunity of being able to speak, and I hope you guys choose the best candidates for being citizen members on the ad hoc committee. Thank you, and I'll take any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you.
We have some people online. Would you like me to pull them up one at a time?
Yeah, call them up one at a time.
Justin Brown.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, my name is Justin Brown. I live on Browns Ridge Road. I wish to serve on this committee because I believe I bring some skills and experience that would be of value to the committee and the mission as a whole. Upon moving to the great town of Wolfeboro 8 years ago, I retired after having served over 20 years on a municipal ambulance service as a firefighter, paramedic, as well as an emergency dispatcher. This experience would be of value as I'm familiar with the good, the bad, and the ugly, as well as fully understanding the different ambulance service models. certifications, staffing levels, mutual aid, et cetera. I also served for many years with the state level EMS committee, working on protocols and operational issues such as community-based EMS services. I currently work as a bookkeeper and a small business consultant with a focus on financial analysis and forecasting now as my full-time job. Obviously, a component to the town's ambulance needs is largely a financial one, and I'm comfortable analyzing numbers. The full-time residents and visitors of our great community deserve the very best emergency services plan for the future. I wish to serve as an unbiased participant to help make the best decision with financial and quality of services provided in mind. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Justin. Brenda Jarrett.
Hello. As you may know, I am the secretary of the Board of Selectmen, and I'm also involved in several different committees in the town. I'm a relatively new resident to town, starting in 2016. I come from a different background than we've heard this evening. My background was in radio news and communications, and that's where my expertise lies. My father was a member of the fire department. He worked on what was known as the rescue squad back then, and then he was part of the fire department as a chief's aide. So my heart and soul breathes fire department, and that's part of the reason for wanting to help the town move forward with this very complicated and critical process that needs to be done in terms of establishing the very best service that we can provide our citizens and taxpayers, as well as our visitors and people who spend their time coming through Wolfeboro and living, working in Wolfeboro all the time. So I do bring a different set of skills to the committee, which I think is always important. And I hope that I can be helpful in some way to help the committee make the decisions that it will be making in the coming weeks and months. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Trevor Green.
Hi there, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, Trevor Green, live on North Line Road. I have a fair bit of experience I currently work as a full-time firefighter paramedic in Laconia. I've previously worked for Stewart's Ambulance for a number of years, and have also been a member of a municipal third service down in Henniker when I was in college. Happy to provide my experience and expertise in the area if that's what's requested, and happy to answer any questions you have.
And that is it.
Okay. Board members, does anybody have any comments? All right, does anybody want to make want to suggest some possible?
I do have a question. Sorry, I had a question.
Okay, sorry.
But I think you went down first, go.
So I'm looking at this, and we have, our 2 firefighters are going to be part of the committee? Just one. We have a town manager who is not going to be part of the committee, but he is a firefighter, or a retired fire chief. We have Justin Brown, who is firefighter EMS. We have Brenda Jarrett, daughter of a firefighter. We have Raymond Stolarski, who is a firefighter, policeman, doctor, lawyer, dentist. Who knows what else he's done. We have Trevor Green, who is a EMS firefighter. We have Basil Soul, who's a firefighter. We have Jim Dearborn, who's a firefighter. So I look at this and I say, we need a balanced committee. Paul, you a firefighter?
No, my dad was.
Okay.
So I must not be qualified.
So I have nothing to do with firefighting. So Paul's not a firefighter. I'm not a firefighter. I would like a balanced committee. I just don't want 7 firefighters on the committee.
We got what we have in front of you,
Yeah.
and you and Brody shouldn't both be on it, so if you want to step down, we can put Brody on. You know,
That's a
so
that's a possibility.
That is a possibility.
That is a possibility.
Can I ask a different question, please? First of all, I object to insulting candidates. Having said that, when does the pencils have to go down on this study, Jim? I didn't do that it wasn't a trick question. I'm just asking. When do we have to put the pencils down?
So the consultant anticipates taking 16 weeks to perform their evaluation. I would urge this committee to try and be completed with their work around the 1st of January so that we are prepared for warrant.
Wow, that's awful late, the 1st of January.
Yeah, you're at the coal face at that point.
Yeah, I think you got to have it
Let's
done.
back it up to December 1st. What I'm trying to do, I'm trying to just create the boundaries under which we have to operate so that we can efficiently discharge, what we're supposed to do. And I heard something which was intriguing, and I mean that respectfully to one of the candidates, that we should consider a kind of a bigger, more robust. And I was asking myself, could we get that done, or do we tranche it? Is there a tranching you could do? You kind of build this with some prospective things. But I'd really like to know, number one, is when do we put the pencils down? And I think we need clarity on that. And I'd like the board to weigh in on that one.
When you say, when the committee is done and the consultant is done, that's the pencil down date.
16 weeks from when, Jim?
Pretty much next week. So it should, I think I looked at that, putting it toward the end of November, 1st of December.
So we need to have the pencils down by 1 December, you think? Is that enough time, Linda?
Well, we'll need at least 20 minutes to look at the report and dissect it and, and figure it out.
Well, so there you go. I mean, so you lay it all out and you say to yourselves, and I'm not trying to just do this, I'm just trying to make sure that we don't step into something we can't do properly. We need time to soak this with the consumers.
I agree.
We need time to lay this thing out so that, because it just seems to me we're going to look at two options. Who can do it the best? How much is it going to cost? So that's kind of what Mr. Dearborn said, but I didn't use the word best possible price. I just said how much is it going to cost. Best is what I like on who can do it. So we got to get all that stuff done, but then we got to lay some groundwork with the voters, and I just don't know how that's all going to work.
Yeah, and that time frame bothers me because we're starting to look at warrant articles in November and getting them together in December, and not really knowing what way to go on this one or how much the amount will be.
And
if we aren't done.
I know. Yeah, and we're in the middle of budget season and all that fun stuff. So I'm not trying to make stuff up. It's just we got a lot of yellow marks on calendars of things we're supposed to do. And the other question I had is Jim, and this is a put you on the spot question. Jim has told us that he wants to be absent from this, and just give us some of your reasons so that people can understand why you want to be absent from this committee.
Because I've provided you with an opinion that I feel is the best solution moving forward.
Because I didn't hear, I'm sorry.
Because I've provided you with what I feel is the best solution moving forward.
So just so the public knows, it's not because he has a financial interest or anything else. He's basically said that he has communicated what he thinks the best thing is to do, and he wants us to figure out what we think is the best thing to do. Is that kind of a fair way to play the words back to you?
I think that this decision should not be vested with me. This decision should be vested with a group of citizens, an outside resource that goes to the voters with the best solution possible for this town going forward.
So then, at the risk of not necessarily agreeing with my colleague, my thinking here is that we should have some people with relevant business experience, and the fact that somebody has been a firefighter, a doctor, a military veteran, that I'm okay with all of that.
Yeah.
I really am. And the fact that this person may be a person who has never served on a committee before, and so we have a brand-new, fresh set of eyes, I'm kind of okay with that, too. So I know who one of the people are. I'm worried about people who are conflicted, and there is a candidate who said, you know, in full transparency, I might want to raise my hand and become a member of the team, the administrative team. That, to me, would be a prospective conflict, and so I would probably say that's not where I am. So I have one recommendation that I will make, but I'd like to hear from the rest of the board, because we're going to co-chair it, and we might as well get you guys to tell us what you think, too.
Okay, we've heard from Brian, we've heard from Paul. Dave, I'll go over to you, and then I'll come back to you, Brad.
Well, I agree with Paul. There's one candidate, number 5, who said they have a conflict. Number 6, I think, also has a conflict. I don't know how well a father and son are going to get along on the same committee. I have some questions about that. But the few others I've kind of eliminated, and I have 2 in mind from my perspective. So.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank all the people that put the name in for consideration here. There's a lot of good experience there with everybody there. So, first of all, thank you to all of that. I've kind of, in my mind, I've kind of narrowed into 2 of them here also, as you guys have said. I don't know if we want to start putting names out yet or not. Or,
You can,
okay.
if you want to.
I think the first one that really popped out, I think my colleague to my right here has kind of mentioned him as number 4 there, Raymond Stolarski, with the varying experience in the medical field, the fire field, the rescue. I mean, there's a ton of experience there. I think we could be very valuable in working through this process. And the other one that sticks out of my mind is number 1, Justin Brown here. He's retired from the ambulance service, but he's also working as a bookkeeper, so he's got financial experience too, which, as we all know, that's going to be a big part of it, and figuring out and knowing, the financial aspects of this whole thing here is going to be a big commitment. We've got to make sure we know what we're getting into, financially, that it's going to, how it's going to break even, if it is going to break even, or make, I don't expect it's going to make money, but we don't want it to be a huge burden going down the road for whichever choice we take. So those would be my 2 picks anyway.
I would go with those 2 picks, but I have also a third, and that is Brody. I felt he came up with a lot of different ideas, so I'm bouncing between those 3. My problem with, we've got a father and son, and we can't really have a father and son, and if that's the case, then I would go with Justin Brown and Raymond Stolarski.
If I stepped back, who else would be on the committee with Paul?
Well, we have to vote on that.
Do I see a volunteer?
Well, I don't, we haven't even voted on who.
Well, it's a question. It's a simple question. If I step back.
I would do it.
You would do it.
I would do it if none of my other 2 friends want to hear do it, I would do it.
Okay.
I'd be out of my league on this one, so.
Well, it isn't in my league either.
It's not in anybody's
Got to get the game.
Yeah.
This is a learning experience.
That's right.
But I think, that's where I am. I just,
What would be your 2 votes, Linda? I'm sorry.
What?
What would be your 2?
If it wasn't, I would do Justin and Raymond Skolaski. Those would be my two. But I really, if we couldn't work out the Brian and Brody thing, I think Brody brings in, he was thinking, you know, and we've talked about it before, what are the other combinations? Is it just a service, or do we take it over? Or do we have a backup ambulance? Do we look at another town? I was on a Milfoil joint board. There are ways that we can come together. We haven't even looked at that.
Right.
I thought those were very good ideas.
I did as well, and that's why I asked the question as to when the pencils down date is, because as many illustrations as you offered of places where there is, I don't know what the right terminology is, but kind of a networked community, fire, police, there was also early on in this process, I was on the budget committee, Linda, and I think I sent you a piece of work that was done by a community that actually had tried this.
Yes,
and
you
it
did.
broke. You know, it got busted, and they had to go through this 3-year wind down period. So I'm not aligned to one or the other. But when you advance that notion, I said, a lot of work, a lot of time, smart questions, not inside this envelope that we're trying to work with. So could we tranche it? That would be, you know, could you build one of these things and you could tranche it so that step one would be whatever our near-term remit is, and step two would be, you know, maybe a bigger thing. It's always a great idea to have more time than you need, and unfortunately, it never works out that way. So we're stuck with what we got. And I'm one last thing, and I'll shut up. I know we're putting my colleague here in a bit of a quandary. He says, you know, I'm willing to step aside, but I need to know. I want an arbitrage here. I want to know whether you're going to vote for, you know, somebody who I would. That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
I will tell you this: there is no nepotism involved, because it would be that we would disagree more than we would agree.
It doesn't matter. It's the look of it. It just really is the look of it. I can't. Brad?
I had one question for Jim here. Was there an application deadline for these applicants to get this information to us?
There was.
Yes.
Because
And all of these were in timely.
Yep. Because I did receive an email today from a gentleman, and I should have sent it to you earlier today, but I just sent it over to you about 20 minutes ago from a gentleman, so it's actually be too late anyway, but he was currently working in an ambulance system, I think one of our neighboring towns here, so I don't know if it'd probably be a conflict anyway, but sorry, bring it up anymore, or the fact that it came in so late, it doesn't matter anyway.
I think it would be disingenuous to the individuals who submitted theirs in a timely fashion, and we have 7 people who did that. I guess the other question that this board could consider if they wanted to, you know, this is a 9-person committee. Would you want to appoint an alternate?
That's an idea.
Sorry, Dave?
Put an alternate on.
What'd you say? What did Dave say?
I said that's probably not a bad idea.
Yeah,
I got 3 names right here.
Put a non-voting alternate on it, and in the event of a voting member not being present, the alternate votes.
It always happens.
Yeah.
And we're saying that that person who we put on an alternate will be able to fully participate in the meetings. Because we had one meeting that was not the case. So.
Well, and I would also encourage that all of these meetings would be available for everybody to attend.
Sure.
It's not a non-public meeting.
Sit in the audience.
All righty, let's see if we can come up with 2 members, and then we're in agreement, we'll have 1 alternate. Dave?
I'll make a motion. if you want.
Okay.
Here we go.
Make a motion that we nominate, I'm going to nominate Justin Brown and Raymond Stolarski as regular members, and Brady Brody, rather, DeShays as an alternate.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right.
Question.
Yep.
Does his alternate status still have a conflict with the fact that another member is the co-chair?
That's up to us,
It's up to us.
whether we think it's a conflict. I generally, I've been on some committees with my husband. I think we might be able to get away with it as an alternate.
Linda, I'm just going to withdraw my name. I'm going to withdraw. I think you guys should choose a firefighter. I do. I think there are more qualified candidates in the pool. So I'm just going to withdraw.
Okay, thanks for your ideas.
Nothing bad. Just get rid of the complication of it. I didn't know it would be a complication at all. I honestly applied because I didn't think anyone would. So you have 7 very qualified candidates. Just choose another one as an alternate. I mean, you got a great one right in the room here who came to participate, who's been involved with our fire service. Personally, if I was on the board, I would appoint him as the alternate. So that's what I think you guys should do. Thanks.
Fantastic.
Okay.
So, Dave, you need to remove that person from your
Yep.
motion?
And I'd put Jim Dearborn's name in as an alternate.
Second.
Any further discussion? Any comments? So we've got-
Question for, well, it's just a general question. Jim's status could influence, or Jim's status on the committee has an, I don't know how to word this. We need to make real sure that, and this isn't a question of your integrity by no stretch of the imagination. We need to make real sure that any member of the fire service can or cannot be, could or could not be, might or might not be a member of the ambulance service. It's entirely possible.
That's possible, Paul.
So just let me finish. And I just want to make sure that at least people understand where I'm at. You could or could not be, might or might not be a member of this, especially if your vision is realized. Could happen a different way, leadership-wise, and all that kind of stuff. And so I just don't want that to get in the way of our conversations, and I would trust that we can do that. And I just got a nod from Mr. Dearborn, so I trust that you're okay with that.
Why don't we bring Mr. Dearborn up? You want to come up and address
I'm sorry,
that?
Dave.
Are you
I'm sorry.
comfortable?
I'm sorry, Dave.
First of all, I don't think I would have applied for this if I didn't think I could be objective as a taxpayer and an employee. I mean, this obviously has bearing on me from both sides, as an employee as well as a taxpayer. And I just wanted to emphasize, I did it as a taxpayer, but yes, you're absolutely right. It does perhaps have some impact on me. That has no bearing on me being on this committee. I have to be objective. I don't get to choose my way each day at the job. Chiefs, policymakers, you guys decide that. I have instructions, this is how we operate, and this is no different in this committee, I feel. I'm here to offer up additional ideas, as Brody did. I didn't know I was being put on, I was supposed to have a resume tonight. I apologize, because some of those ideas he shared with you tonight, I share. But I didn't think that we wanted to get that carried away. So yes, I can be objective. That's the intent of being on it, and I think anybody that comes in it with an expectation that they can't, they shouldn't do it. So.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay. That clears it up. Thank you, Jim. All right. Any other concern here? Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I would like it if we could get this done as early in December as we could. I understand it'll probably be done, the middle of November. The sooner it can be completed, the easier it's going to be for us to get all the materials to put the warrant article together.
So the kickoff meeting is scheduled for July 23rd at 3 p.m. at the library. and I will advise everybody and advise them that they need to be sworn in.
Okay, thank you very much, Jim.
Linda, could I ask you a question?
Yep.
So the town manager dispatched an email to us, not to the candidates, obviously, but an email to us saying, you know, what do you need to know? What would you like to know from the consultancy? And we, well, I shouldn't say we. I know I asked some questions. Is it possible, Jim, that we could get some of those data, answers, information to this committee at the moment that everybody gets sworn at by Pat Waterman?
You've confused me, Paul. Could you repeat the statement?
Yeah, I asked, I'll blanket it out. I said I'd like the incumbent to provide a data room, 3 years of financial information that we are sworn to secrecy not to look at.
Okay,
Will
so
we
the
get that
ambulance
information?
provider, not the consultant.
Yeah.
Yes, I am meeting, myself, the chief and the deputy chief are meeting with them, I believe it's next Tuesday, to put that together.
And just for the benefit of the team out here, the sooner we get some of that stuff, you guys probably have some of it, but the sooner the committee gets some of that material, we just get another, I think 3 or 4 days is precious time, the better the jump start we get on this activity. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Linda.
Anything else, anybody? All right, we'll go on to the sidewalk ad hoc committee update. We received answers from the town planner and some replies from town attorney on some of the issues related to the recommendation. And one of the issues was there's public and there's private sidewalks, and there are regulations in 175-44 that relates to A-frame signs and portable signs, and that's for residential or commercial property. It doesn't apply to town sidewalk. So my suggestion is that we take the wording from 175-44 and put it in and keep it there, and then add it to 140 chapter 140, which is on our streets and sidewalks, and just duplicate it. We have to change the wording a little bit, and so it doesn't relate to zoning. So then we have the same regulations, whether it's on personal property or it's on the town property. And then we can come through with the regulations. That's for the A-frame signs. There is also the projecting signs. We can take it from the 674 section and then move it over to the 140. And to me, that would solve the majority of the town planner's concern on the two. There is a discrepancy on the height of any flag from what the recommendation of the committee was to what's in the planning and zoning. They have 8 feet. We were looking at 6.5, but we can
Just make it 8.
Yeah, we can.
Why reinvent the wheel? Let's
Right.
just go with what we already have in town that's been in place. Code is 7 feet?
From a flag going out over
Yeah, over a public way is 7 feet.
17?
7 feet.
7.
7. Okay, sorry. Okay.
So
Well,
why
we-
is our zoning 8?
That's what they'd like. They made it more, you can make it more restrictive.
Minimum 7.
You can't make it less. They couldn't have made it 6.
Yeah.
They could make it 10 if they wanted.
Yeah.
Okay? So there
So we
was
can
that.
we can do 7 or 8 then, whatever.
We can decide on that. And then we could, under 140, add the penalties. And I think then the real issue is the width of the side, the width we are going to have free from objects. and that is, do we want 50? We have a easement agreement with the building that Seven Sons is in, and we use 48 there. So I don't know what the selectmen want to do with that. And what I would suggest is that we have somebody, I just did a rough draft of where you would put the A-frame signs in 140, but we should have somebody draft that up and then put the penalties as it was recommended. But we still need to deal with the
Land.
how much. I would do something, we could do something like, we talked about no objects on the sidewalk from December 16th through March 30th. It was a $50 permit per year, and then we have to deal with, you know, the amount of space that needs to be free. They also talked about a square footage for a table and 2 chairs, and then there was the penalty. So I don't know how board members would like to move forward with this.
Can I ask a question, please?
Sure.
So is this a redefinition of the C1 district?
No, this has to do with objects on the town sidewalks. It has nothing to do with zoning districts or anything else. It's looking downtown in our sidewalks, and some of it is on private property and would have to do with the zoning.
No, I understand that. My question is, well, maybe it's a different question. What are the boundaries? Maybe it's by street, maybe it's by, what are the boundaries that this set of regulations applies to?
Sidewalks.
All sidewalks in
Sure.
the C1 district?
C1, it could be going up North Main Street, somebody
So
could
this
put
is
in-
this is a reconstruction of the regulations in the C1 district.
No, it doesn't have to be just the C1. It's on town sidewalks.
No, I understand that, but the C1 district is the central business district of downtown. It's on a zoning map. And
Correct.
Are we re-regulating that C1 district with these everything in the C1 district has to have these regulations applied to it?
We are saying that it is on all sidewalks
Okay.
owned by the town, not necessarily just C1. Brewster couldn't put some stuff out on their sidewalk, an A-frame sign that affected it. Somebody down the way couldn't.
So this is a town-wide regulation for all business districts, mixed use as well as C1.
If there's a sidewalk.
Could be residential, too.
Yep.
Okay, so that's part one. And then part two, on the property side, do we have boundary surveys so that we know where a private piece of property ends and a public piece of property begins?
We constructed and we maintain the sidewalk. And so my understanding, Jim, is that gives us authority over it because it's ours. We built it, we maintain it.
That was my understanding when.
And that was your understanding from an attorney?
Correct.
Our current lawyer?
Correct.
So a person who owns a parcel of property who has, you know, some of that property is covered by a sidewalk that the town may have paved over at some point in time, they have lost the rights to that property by virtue of these regulations? Is that your understanding?
My understanding, by virtue of the town maintaining it and plowing
because
it,
the town
doing
maintains
everything,
it,
that we have an easement over it, and therefore we can control.
So there's an easement on it.
That was kind of my understanding from the, from.
So there's an easement. If there's an easement on it,
There's not,
that's one thing.
maybe I shouldn't use the reason. Jim, you can.
I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm just trying to clean it up so we don't get into a little slugfest here over vagaries.
Well, I think the key takeaway is if we have a sidewalk over private property that we're maintaining and that sidewalk is 48 inches in width. It's there for the reason of accessibility, compliance. I don't have the legal notes right in front of me, but I can pull them up and review them with you if you like.
I can read the paragraph if the board is agreeing, because it's an opinion from town attorney, and I don't have the right to read it unless other people.
Yeah, I would like to
care,
read
but
it.
it is-
And Mr. Bilodeau, who was the chair of the sidewalk committee, also contacted multiple other municipalities, and that's the same regulation that they've used from their town attorneys. We are not doing something different. We are not doing something that's unusual.
Do you want me to read it, or do you want to read it, Paul, which is on?
You can send it, or if the...
Well, you've got it, it's part of the packet.
I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, just
Is everybody agreed that I can read it? Anybody in trouble? I'm assuming, and this is talking about the sidewalk and who owns it, that this is referring to a particular situation where a property owner may own the land under the sidewalk. And I am not sure what the deed says, but generally, if the town builds and maintains the sidewalk, then it has an easement over the sidewalk and has the authority to regulate it with respect to the public. In the same way, the town has the authority to regulate Class 6 roads, but may not own the land on which they sit. I would expect the property owner to balk at the fee associated with obtaining a permit, but I do not think they could reasonably protest that the other regulations which pertain to potential obstacles that negatively impact the public's ability to move along the sidewalk, and that's what we're dealing with. So that's what we got from town attorney.
So because somebody has an easement, or an easement either officially on their land or unofficially on their land, you know, by virtue of the fact we put a sidewalk, it's assumed we have an easement over your property. Did you check to see if they could file for an abatement?
They get an abatement, I mean, we're maintaining, they could be charged extra because we maintain the sidewalk and we have a machine that comes and plows
Yeah, I'm
the
not trying to be
snow.
argumentative. I just want to make sure we have all these little boxes checked, because people will say, I think I need an abatement. And if we say, no, you're not entitled to one because, you know, we plow your sidewalk, that's fine. We just need to, I just think we need to check the boxes, that's all.
Okay, so then where do you want to go from here? Do you want to get a written legal opinion?
Yep.
Do we not, this is the whole board, do we not want to move forward with trying to regulate what is on the sidewalks? How would you like to go from here, guys?
I guess just a question I got, or a comment I got, is, because I didn't get that paper in my packet here,
Right.
so.
It was emailed to us. That's how I
Oh,
got
okay.
it. I got it.
All
It
right.
was emailed out to all of us.
After the
No.
packets were.
Yeah. No, it was not after, it was before. It was in response. It was I'll have to go look exactly when it was sent to us, but it was.
I'm happy with the sidewalk policy that the committee put together, and not because I was on the committee, but because I've spent as much time, I think, as the rest of the board in downtown, and I've seen that there are times when the sidewalks are open and available, and there are times when the sidewalks and sections of the sidewalks where you can't go by. I've seen elderly people struggling. I've seen people breaking state RSA, walking in the gutter along the state highways, which, by the way, when we have a patron who owns a business putting a sign on a sidewalk so that everybody walks off into a state roadway, every single person that does that is breaking state RSA. You're not allowed to walk into the gutter or onto a roadway if a sidewalk is present. Doesn't say who owns the damn sidewalk, it just says if there's a sidewalk present. So I think that we need to make sure that every business has the opportunity to use the sidewalks to support their businesses. We also have to make sure that every elderly person, every person within ADA necessity has the availability to traverse the sidewalks without having a problem. I think it's a common decency to human beings to do that.
And the reason this is here was we had people at businesses requesting to put chairs and tables and things on the sidewalk. And we granted some last year, and we were trying to get uniformity on doing that, and yet leaving open the amount of space needed for people to travel on the sidewalk. And that's what this whole thing is all about. These are the recommendations from the ad hoc committee. The board doesn't have to do them all, you know.
And I applaud again, the chair of that committee was a person who came to us, and we had a healthy but strong, not disagreement, conversation about how he would use his sidewalks. And he came up with the committee, chaired the committee, and helped us create a plan that is probably more restrictive than what he was looking for his business in the first place. And I applaud him for being very unbiased and doing a very, very fair job on that committee.
And we sent a survey out, and one of the things that everybody said is they wanted to have enough room for people to use the sidewalk. And that's what this is all trying to do. The A-frame signs, there's some of them down there. There's one in which you cannot use the sidewalk because it covers the sidewalk. And one of them is in the entranceway to the handicap ramp. And so we're trying to have some meat in some way to address this. And it's really for our citizens and our visitors to have the space they need on the sidewalk. That's what this whole exercise is all about.
I remember at our last, when we first saw the presentation, I asked if there was an ADA issue, and I was reminded there wasn't. I also checked, because ADA complaints have to be formally written. There hasn't been any in the past year. So we may have, and I'm not suggesting that we don't have, we may have people who think that they can't get through those sidewalks, and they might be right. But, you know, it just strikes me about managing by hearsay, and we have to be careful about doing that. And this committee, these surveys, there was a dozen or 20 of them, Linda?
I think 24.
24. And this is this is a representative sample of the businesses that are in the Railroad Avenue area. I'm kind of looking out into the audience. Is this kind of a representative sample of those people?
It went out, the chamber sent it out to their membership. Mary, you want? Okay.
I'm not sure I understand your answer. Can you come on? Oh, okay. Where are these surveys? Were they, you know, these? It appears that it just appears to me that the challenge we have is in that Railroad Avenue, Central Avenue, that cluster, maybe on Main Street. Do the survey? Are the people who responded to those surveys? Are those the people, or are they business people someplace else?
Well, I think we...
Yeah. Okay. And I know we've had, and I'll shut up after this one, I know we've had in the recent past 4 weeks, we've had survey schmurvey. You don't have enough, you didn't get a big enough survey to get the right answer. So I'm not going to play the survey schmurvey thing, but it may make sense, and we did this during the economic development time when we were thinking about putting up a new hotel. It may make sense to invite all the business owners into this room and thrash it out.
I guess we as a board decided to do an ad hoc committee. We sent them out, they worked very hard. These are the recommendations in front of us.
Okay.
We are looking, and I think that people would like to use the sidewalk.
So
We can show you pictures. I have pictures if you need it. I can go downtown through the next couple weeks and we can produce pictures of what happens when there are chairs and tables and the chairs get out and how difficult it is in the A-frames just for any of us to walk. Forget about ADA. The ADA is a whole nother thing. Just being able to use the sidewalk, and that's what we were trying to do. And then also to make sure that we well covered the people who are ADA or disability and challenged, to make sure we added and included them. We didn't do it based on complaints or anything else. We did it on looking, talking, sending out a survey, having a committee. Brian?
Well, my question for Paul is, who did you go to find out if there were ADA complaints, and how did you specify your ADA complaints? Did you ask them for...
You have to send a letter to the town. You have to send a letter to the town for ADA complaints.
No, you don't.
I'll look it up for you. I'll give it to
You
I'll put it in the minutes.
can take and you can apply an ADA complaint. Any citizen can to the
I'll put it in the
Health and
minutes.
Human Services
I'll
for
put it in
the
the
state of New
minutes.
Hampshire. We have had ADA complaints in the past. As a matter of fact, in the past, the town of Wolfeboro had to address a whole ton of ADA complaints, and I know for a fact that there's at least one ADA complaint that has been filed with the state recently. So you got to check your facts.
Well, we
I
don't
don't have to
need...
check my facts, I'll just
Okay,
I'll send it to you.
I'm going to close that discussion. We really aren't here to argue ADA. We need to come to, it's getting late, I'd like to get some conclusion to this. How would you like to move forward?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendations of the ad hoc committee, sidewalk committee.
Based on Linda's amendments.
Do I
Based
have a
on what?
second?
Linda's amendments. She has some amendments where she changed the height of the flag restriction and
Well,
some...
okay. Yeah, but I mean, the
Their recommendations, you want
recommendations
them...
of the committee.
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay. And in that, I will send all my drafts over to Jim on the A-frames and how I move them around. And you want to see what we can do with that, Jim?
Yeah, so I guess the question for the board would be, I will take and get that into the appropriate format. From that point, do you want to have one last look at it before scheduling a public hearing, or do you want to schedule the public hearing?
Schedule a public hearing, did you say? You want to just schedule the public hearing, or do you want to review it first? Huh?
Schedule it.
Schedule it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay?
Got it.
All righty. Next is budget review schedule. Amy gave us a calendar. And I have one question. Jim, are you going to be ready with anything September 30th?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do we really, here, I'll go do this. Usually, the first one we do at the end of included in a Board of Selectmen's meeting. We usually bring in the nonprofits and your initial discussion.
I'm fine with that, provided the agenda isn't terribly long where we may run late.
Any other people? That's just one suggestion I have. Brad?
Looking at the schedule here, the only one I have a conflict with is on Thursday, the 3rd. So with that statement you guys just talked about, if you want to move that one then to the 2nd to do a smaller portion of budgets along with our regular meeting, is that what you were kind of thinking?
No, I was looking at the 30th.
Yeah, but
I was going to move that and add whatever they were going to do on the 30th to the 2nd.
yeah, so my suggestion, because I'm going to miss that one, if you
Okay.
want to move that one back a day, So it'd be the second one to do a light version of reviews. But it does, I mean, doesn't matter, I can miss the third anyway.
No,
I'm not that,
So you can make the 30th, you can make the 2nd, but you can't make the 3rd.
that's the only night I have I have another commitment
Okay.
that night.
Okay. Is there a reason why is it the rooms why we have 2 the first week, only 1 the second week, nothing the third week, and then 2 the fourth week? Was there not, because usually we do, 2 a week. I just didn't,
Yeah.
there's 1 week where we have none.
Well, I think it would be challenging the week of the 9th. If you look at the schedule, ZBA has a meeting, League of Women Voters has an appointment here, and then the Police Commission are in here, so that only leaves Wednesday and Friday available that week for this hall.
For this hall, I wonder what the library's like.
September 19th.
What do you want to do, board members?
I'm fine with the schedule the way it was.
Anybody else?
You know what, I'm kind of with Brian. I'll make it work, and if I can't, I'm sure it'll be okay with
Yeah.
everybody.
Just won't be here.
Okay, so we've got
Leave it
September.
the way it is.
September 30th, no, yes, October 3rd, October 9th, October 22nd, October 24th, October
22nd, yeah, 22nd, I'm sorry, go ahead, yep.
October 28th, and October 30th,
October.
because she just didn't color that, but it's in.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
All righty. The other thing I would like to schedule is a work session on Route 28, and I was thinking of September 11th, and I have a couple of things in relationship to that day. Next meeting, you're going to review the evaluation form for the town manager. And if we okay it, we would do the evaluations, and I would like the evaluations back to me on August 21st. That gives me some time to put it together. It would allow us to do a work session on September 11th, and then follow with a non-public session where the board reviews each of our evaluations, which would mean that we could then meet with the town manager on September 18th, and we would make our September 30th deadline for having his evaluation. So I don't know where
So
people...
we just extend the board meeting on the 18th for a non-public after that? Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay,
correct. That's what I was thinking of.
thank you.
Yeah. If that is okay, and then my other question does the board want to do a work session on Route 28? I feel we have a lot of information to talk over. One, there seems to be letters to the editor. They have no information on it. I think we need to get out that anybody can go to the New Hampshire DOT website, and you look for Wolfeboro, and our number is 29615, and on that website are traffic modeling simulations, which was brought to the Board of Selectmen. Anybody who does not understand or hasn't had a chance, please go to that website. Is that on our homepage, Jim, that link?
I learned today it is not.
Okay, well, can we get that up?
Yes.
Hoping. We're hoping to get that link up. So anybody wants to get a hold of me, I can give you that link. We need to decide whether and if we're going to do warrant articles, how we might want to word those warrant articles. we probably should talk about. We said we might want to cut back what we do, to have some discussion about how wide we want it, whether there are issues. There's questions in my mind of whether we want to always maintain two-way traffic or whether one-way traffic we can limp through.
During construction.
To me, there's huge number of questions that we as a board should take some time to talk about. So I need to know
Question.
whether.
First things first, Jim, did you get a note out to DOT yet? Has that gone out?
I've had a conversation with Jason Ayotte. Jason Ayotte watched the meeting. He has the information which he needs to continue moving forward. I haven't got to the point of a letter yet, but he's able to
He
move
knows-
forward.
he knows
He's able
where.
to move forward based on the information he received in watching your meeting.
I think a work session would be helpful.
Yeah, I agree.
Dave, you okay with the work session? Brian? Okay. We'll move on. Josiah Brown. We have been given 3 names. We also have been, and we had received in our treasurer's report that we received $30,000 this year in dividends from the trust to bring our total up to $87,804. We have 3 applicants. We have Katie Folsom, Mariah Lambert, and Emma Scott. And so we need to decide how much we want to give them. My feeling is we should give them more. Our job is to give out the money for scholarships, and we aren't coming even close.
What did we give last year?
I think we gave them
3,000.
3,000, yeah, so I was thinking that we could give each of them 6,000 this year, and that would be 18,000. We won't even have given away our income.
Is it by, it was at 3,000 per semester that they got it? So that means they were getting 6,000 a year?
Yes, because they apply for it twice a year.
Yes. So they're already getting 6,000 times 3 is
Okay, so they
18,000
get-
right now. But if we bumped it up
I
to...
don't think we
No,
gave them, no.
Each installment that we provided was 3,000
Each
last year.
Are you
Just for one
sure?
semester.
Yeah, each one,
Yeah.
I believe, was 3,000.
Yeah, 3,000 per semester. They go to school for
No,
2...
there's only one, we only give them out once. Second, they do another semester, they apply again.
That's correct.
Okay.
It's only, they don't get 6,000.
They don't automatically, because we give them this semester,
Right.
the next one.
The
That's
next
what you're
one,
saying.
right.
So don't they get 6,000? If it's
If
2
they
semesters...
apply the second
Yeah,
time.
yeah, if they apply, they go 2 semesters. So for a calendar year for school, they get $6,000.
If they apply twice.
If they apply twice.
and qualify twice.
Correct.
You know, frankly, I like the idea of maybe increasing the amount.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't even buy books for that amount of money. I mean,
And we have the money.
it's crazy.
We have way more money than we're giving out. We did add the FASTA, but my understanding there were problems with that this year. And we raised the eligibility, and if we can't get more than this to apply, we may need to look at that again.
I mean, that's one thing I was disappointed in, that we only had 3.
Yep,
Well, typically we were running around 4 or 5, or 5 or 6, something like that.
yep.
Yeah.
And we made it easier to apply.
Right.
So, board members, what do you want to do? Do I have a motion?
I'd make a motion to award $6,000 to each of the 3 candidates here that you read off, Caitlin Folsom, Miriam Lambert, and Emma Scott, for this coming, which semester are we looking at here?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. We're now on to the lease agreement with TCW Properties Development, and that is for the propane tanks in Cape Park. And Jim, do you want to go through what you added and corrected or changed, I guess I should say?
It basically took the previous document. The changes you have in front of you are highlighted in yellow. The first one is just to change the dates to reflect the new dates. The second change is to recognize the installation of the fence and that the expense of that was at the Lacey, and this was done in lieu of the landscape development plan. It is a 2-year term. Again, the dates have changed to reflect the 2-year term. Continues to maintain a 90-day prior to the expiration for renewal, which he did do this year. It reflects the rate to be $2,000 per year, payable upon signing of the lease and before July 1, 2025. And then Section 4 reflects the fence which was installed, and as does Section 5, and any reference to the landscaping was removed. I believe this captured everything that the board was looking for relative to the changes to the lease agreement.
Does anybody have any comments or concerns? So if we sign this, the question is, if we sign this tonight, we're not going to give it to them to sign until they hand us the check?
That would be correct. The signature would come forward with a check.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we sign the lease agreement in reference to the TCW and renting out space for propane tanks.
Second.
And I have a
Brian,
question. Yeah, so can you explain number 3, Jim, to me, rent?
Yep. What would you like to understand?
So the date of July 1st, 2025?
Yep.
That's a second year.
So that's the second year, so,
The lessee shall pay the lessor rent at the rate of $2,000 payable per year, payable upon signing.
2-year period.
And
Yep.
on or before July 1, 2025.
Who made
I
payment?
thought that's what the board had discussed.
That's exactly what we discussed. He's
Right.
questioning the way it's worded.
Okay.
yeah. So, okay.
Would you like it modified?
No, I'm all right with it. And the only other thing I saw was, and maybe I missed it, but I didn't see anything about maintenance of the fence.
4,
Is it 4?
number 4, that's
Right
what he
underneath-
said. He added
right underneath
fence,
the $2,000.
and then the fence is in there.
The only thing about that is it doesn't determine the appearance of the fence. He could paint it pink. He could neglect to service it.
I thought that we had discussed that at some length and that it was going to be up to Parks and Rec to stain that if it became necessary.
Yeah.
That he was not to touch the fence.
Yeah, I thought we
Well,
talked
it's
about that
his
at the beginning of
fence.
the meeting.
He, you know,
I thought we had some lengthy discussion about Bo being the one that's going to pick the color or whatever. Or,
Yeah. So if he's going to maintain the fence, that wouldn't include painting, or it would be only if something broke or something like that. But in 5 years or 3 years, if it needs another coat of paint, we're the one that
that
will-
was my understanding
Yeah.
of it.
in 2 years, we got to write this again. We can do any kind of changing if we think it's not properly maintained or whatever it is. In the next, 2 years from now, we can make any changes we want to this.
So this first time that it gets painted or however we coat it, we will be doing it this first time?
My understanding is it's going to stay as is.
Oh, it's staying natural.
I didn't hear anything else
don't
on
know.
that.
Yeah, it's what I kind of thought too, in being a cedar fence, that's kind of typical of,
It'll weather up.
yeah.
Because I heard discussions, and I don't know if it was here or from Parks and Rec, that they thought that they wanted to have it match the deck color of
That would be nice.
the building.
If that's the case, then they need to talk to him about it.
That'd be nice.
So then I don't know if it becomes us, Parks and Rec, who does it?
I think at this point, my feeling is the fence is up. The people that maintain Cape Park are Park and Rec. It's our maintenance division, and that's where it goes.
And I would just add, based on your conversation earlier tonight, I will suggest to the lessee that he probably should not do anything with the fence if this board is going to install an additional fence, so that the stain that would be applied could be weathered together and it ages appropriately so it looks uniform.
Ta-da.
Okay,
Ta-da.
all right. That's all.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
All right. I have a motion by Dave, a second by Paul. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
There's that.
Okay.
They did that. Okay, I need a motion to go into the Libby trustees meeting.
So move.
Second.
All right, motion by Brad, seconded by Paul. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. First item on the agenda is discussion of the building.
Back it up.
Paul or Brad, who's going to take that?
I think I'm going to do the first part, and I think Brad's going to do the second
Okay.
part.
Sounds
Can I have
good.
the clicker? Who's got the clicker? Changing of the baton. And given the hour, I'll try to be quick.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, Dave, for that punctuation mark. I appreciate it. So I went down and looked at the maintenance we put on the building. Those are the maintenance dollars we spent on Libby for the past 5-6 years. About 40% of that maintenance is for alarm licenses, spring cleaning of the building. Just data, okay? A squint chart, but one to help. The top part of the squint chart is we have the Libby docks. And everybody has paid that. When I drew that off of KC, we had one person who hadn't paid their annual dock landing fee. Is that what it was, Linda? I said dock dues, dock landing fee, permit fee. What? Barge landing fee. So everybody's paid up. You'll see in my notes that I did a couple of weeks ago that we were looking for payment. That payment has been received. You'll see that. And the bottom of the chart is provided by Casey, who, by the way, thank you in your absence for doing this. There's two funds available to the Libby, the Schroth Fund as well as the Capital Reserve Fund. And that was warrant Article 12, sorry for the squinting. That was done in 2000 and, what was it, Linda, 19, 20? It's up there somewhere in that 20. It was done in 2020. And those are the exact wordings of the CRF, the purpose of renovating, expanding, repairing the Libby Museum and further to it. The headline on this is it's a restricted fund. You can't just go in willy-nilly. The Libby trustees have to recommend to the Board of Selectmen, which I think we're going to have to do, and then come out of this session and vote to do something with the monies. Those are the fund numbers. Here's some activities. I met with Tom Goodwin. He was I believe, still the Friends of the chair of the Friends of the Libby. The relationship there is strained. It got strained at the point in which we had a warrant article that didn't get put together. It missed by a couple of handfuls of votes. I went down on the 3rd of June with Steve Randall, Bruce, and myself. We went down and took a site visit. I am not an engineer, so what I'm going to present to you is my non-engineering view of things. Brad visited with T.L. Turner at the Libby, with Bruce. You were going to do Bruce, is that right? On the 7th? Yep. On the 17th, I went down there with my Brownie camera. I took some snapshots to kind of let you know what was going on. And I don't know, Brad will mention preservation timber frame. We've had some experience with them in the past. I don't know whether we're going to recruit them or not. Number one, the Libby dock. If you go down and look at the Libby dock, it's kind of, it's about a 20-degree tilt. I don't know, and nobody really knows whether it's because the barge is breaking up against it or whether it's heaved. I think, Linda, you observed that it hasn't been, it's not bubbled, right?
No, because that's the snowmobile ramp.
Yeah, we don't bubble it because the snowmobiles go out there, so the dock's got a little wavy gravy going on. It's busted. It needs some work. The ramp area is also compromised. Boats come up, they power load. In other words, they ram their boat into gear in order to get up into their trailers. There's some concrete pads down there. Those pads are beginning to show signs of wear and tear. I personally tried to get the pontoon boat out of there a year ago, and when the lake water goes down, you almost need a skid steer to get you up to get out. It's getting into a little bit of trouble. So. Second to the last, town manager was pursuing some violations. That's done, got that figured out. We did ask Wolfeboro Police Department to just stop by, and if there's anybody literally parking their barge on the break wall, to tell them to cut it out. I looked at the exterior of the Libby. My observation was significant paint sheeting, soffit damage. I'll show you some photographs. Exterior steps in tough shape. Parking lot grading. If you stand on the side of the building and look at the parking lot and look at the Libby, it just goes. The water just points to the back of the building. At the time that I saw this, we had tree limbs laying on the building from recent storms. And it's pretty clear there's water infiltration in the back of the building. Again, I'm not a scientist, but I could stand in the back right. If you stand at the Libby and you go inside into the office and you go to the back right-hand corner, you could jump up and down on the floor. And if you go outside, you see there's soffit damage there. We see battens separated from the building, causing a structure. We kind of went around to the back with Bruce and with Steve, and you'll see some photographs. There's evidence of living creatures back there. Some of them have furry tails and some of them have wings. So we saw that. There's different ways of looking at the paint situation. The one on the left, that's paint on stucco. I don't know whether it has lead paint or not, and I frankly asked Jim to, and we should probably look at maybe taking a look at whether that's lead paint or not. The battens on the front of the building, which are the right-hand picture, that's sheeting paint. I don't know whether that's lead paint. It might be, might not be. Those might have been painted a few years ago. If you notice down in the bottom left-hand corner, that little crack in the curbing area, you'll notice there's some trap rock there. That gets a lot of water, sits there, heaves, cracks the sidewalk. Children run around back up to the parking lot through there. That's a trip hazard and probably could use a little love and kisses. This is the back soffit of the building, left rear, right rear if you're facing the building. I asked Dave rhetorically a couple of weeks ago, those soffits probably went in before 1978, do you think, Dave? So if they went in before 1978 and the way lead paint behaves, and I have a little experience, this is my beach house, lead paint literally peels right off the wood. So we might have a situation there to take a look at some lead paint. Water is infiltrating that. That little pipe that's going down there, I think that pipe feeds high voltage into the building. So we got water coming down there. That needs to get looked at. This is the back of the building, and Brad is going to speak a little bit from a need for a study. That's a batten that's separated. That building has, I guess, what you'd call a belly in it. It's got a little belly, like mine, kind of bows out. And I don't know what we did a few years ago with tightening up the what are they, turnbuckles? I don't know whether that...
Tie rods.
The tie rods. I don't know whether that straightened it out, but that's what's going on in the back. There were some immediate things that Steve Randall and Bruce said they could do, like taking care of the trees, but these things here are going to require some appropriation to take a look at. I walked inside, and again, I I'm not an alarmist, but I want to first of all thank the people who actually operate the place. They do an amazing job trying to keep the facility clean. I looked up and noticed, stuff on the walls that I thought was mold. I did check, and I think Linda and I had a chat, and I had a chat with Jim. When I was on first tour Selectmen, we moved that we were going to remove some of the artifacts, put them in a safe place, and I think what's happened is they've gone home on loan to people.
Well, I checked with Jim, and he said we were paying a bill in Rochester for conditional storage.
I couldn't find it on the expenses.
Well, I asked him, and he was going to check
Was it in the
that out.
expenses? All right, then my bad. So I'll remove that one, but I couldn't find it in the expenses. Rear corner of the office showing signs of water and structure. Again, maintenance. I have some just simple do-nows. These are things we could do like now. The dock needs some repair. Assess the facility for airborne contamination. I think that's important to do, and I think there's some movement to get that done. Assess paint for lead. We got kids playing outside, sitting out in little places where they sit and play. The soffits, clearly, we don't need an engineering study to fix the soffits. Water is coming through and into the building. I think a scrape and repaint is not a bad idea. There may be an argument that says, well, we need to find out why the moisture is pushing the paint off the building, but the building probably could use a little bit of paint scraping and replacing. The landscaping looks a little beat up. And this assessing and remediating that, and Brad will talk about the belly, but inside of that is rodent and bugs. And so there's critters back there that need to get dealt with. That's my report. So, Linda, your pleasure. How do we do this? Do we move these things out?
We'll go through this.
Yeah.
Then he does his, let's get the whole thing,
Whole
and then
bundle.
we as a board can talk about what
Fine.
the both of you have said.
Great.
Brad?
Okay. Yeah, so to build off of what Paul just presented here, we have reached out to Quantum Engineering, who is now known as H.L. Turner, architect group out of Concord, and they have provided us with a scope and fee to come up and do an update on the condition of the Libby Museum. They had done the original one, I believe, back in 2014, I believe.
2015.
Pardon?
2015.
2015,
Yeah.
okay.
I think it was.
And we've also had Bergeron has gone in about that. When is he in there, around 2017 maybe, 16 or 17?
Yeah, or 19.
I don't have that one in front of me.
19.
19 was Bergeron, so. We wanted to get an update on the actual condition of the building today so we could make a determination how to move forward. It kind of went off our radar about 3 years ago now when the Friends who were having the proposal come to us to do the renovation in addition to the Libby. We thought it was probably going to go through with the amount of money they were raising for it. As it turned out, it did fail at the town vote. So we had those 2 years we didn't do any of the maintenance, which kind of was indicative of Paul's slide up there showing, money was spent up through to about 2017, 18. Then there were about 3 years of basically really nothing going on there, assuming we were going to, do a major project. So now we're back to, we need to do something with the building. So to prioritize what we're going to approach to do would be what H.L. Turner would come in and do for us. They do an evaluation to Paul's other piece up there about the lead paint and the mold and stuff in there. A company has been contracted. They've come up and taken samples of the paint, and they've taken air quality samples inside. I don't believe we have results back on yet, do we, Jim? No.
No.
But that should be coming in fairly soon. H.L. Turner knows that has been done. That information will go to them also for their analysis here. So So what their report or their proposal to us is basically a lump sum price of $25,255 to do this work. Let's see. They create a draft report to us within 30 days of doing this. They know what the funds are there to work with. They gave us kind of a rough scope here. They're going to look at the roof framing, the floor system, see what condition that's in. Basically all the walls, integrity and everything up there, the roof. We're going to look up above the hung ceiling that's up there. So that being said, I've also, as I was going through this, even after we contacted them, I came across probably 3 or 4 other updated, not really reports, but information about things that were looked at and corrected up there. And I've sent everything that we have, that we were able to find on record here, down to them so they have that information, so they're not reinventing the wheel at all. They have as much information available to them to do their job. I think it's important to do it that way. They can come up with a list of priorities, put some price tags on it. We know what we have for money now, then we would know by this fall if we need to add anything into a warrant article for this next coming up in 2025, if we need to add more funds to do some important projects or not. So that's kind of where I'm at with that portion of it.
Okay, next thing on the agenda is the condition of the dock.
I had one question for that. Brad, do you think there's ever going to become a time, and it might, where the building just structurally can't be saved? That happens. It's unusual. I've built, 6 houses in my life, and every one, when you take and you sign the deed, when you finish, it says life expectancy of the structure 100 years. So I build a new house today, and they're telling me that it's only going to last 100 years. And that's with modern construction technology. Mm-hmm. Are we going to get to a point where that building just can't be saved? Or can we always save it, but maybe the cost would be a lot?
I think that's the answer right there, Brian. I think you can save, a lot of these buildings. And you see old barns, stuff was built back in the turn of the century in the late 1800s. People, restore them all the time. It's just a matter of how much money you want to put into it. So I think structurally the way that building is built with the balloon framing in there and stuff, I think there's some good timbers in there. They're going to find out more as they open up the walls. That one picture that Paul had there, with it back where the batten is coming apart. That's one of the things that when they do come up to do their assessment, they want us to be there too. We're going to cut into that portion of the building there to see the extent of the rot that's in there, what's going on inside the framing of the building. That's obviously probably going to be the worst part of it right there, and that'll give us a good indication to where we need to go and stuff. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but it basically boils down to how much money you want to put into an old building. And
Okay, does one of the two of you want to address the condition of the dock, or did you take care of that, Paul? That's on the agenda.
I think I took care of it.
Okay.
By the way, I do have, to piggyback on the question, I think there's two questions we really should just answer as quickly as we possibly can from an environmental point of view and from a structural point of view. Should people be in that building? That would be the first question I'd ask. Again, I'm not an engineer, but when I see a building that has a belly in the back of it, that tells me there's a lot, well, it just tells me something. So that'd be the first question I'd ask. And then the second question, which is really to Brian's point, what's it going to take to do something for this building, recognizing that we are the trustees of the Libby and we have a responsibility to the donor. And so we may have to have a conversation about that. But my first question would be, and Brad, if you wouldn't mind, if unless the board has an objection, I really want to know if a human being should be in that building.
Well, I think that we're getting some of that tested.
Right, but that would be the first question I'd want answered. Yes or no, you can have people go down there and pay $5 and go in and play.
Okay,
And Jim, just to pick up, I need to get where you got the maintenance monies for that stuff, because I can't find it on the spreadsheet. I just can't, we'll
Okay,
find it.
I want to come at it in a totally different way. And, I have right here, we did check the movement of that building in 2013, 2014, 2019. I think we should do it again. That's after we did the tie rods. In May 2015, we had Preservation Timber Framing come in to do a structural, put in the tie rods, and I know you're sending all this stuff to them. We had a study of moisture in an unheated building, May 4th, 2017. That was by Christopher Williams, architect. June 2019, we had HEB engineers do a structural analysis report. Alba Architects, August 2019, existing conditions report and assessment. We did the Alba small-scale renovations. So I think what we need to decide, does this board want to do just repair? Does the board want to do the repairs and address the moisture? Do we want to do a small renovation in the back to stabilize the issue that you're having with the foundation? Do we want to do a full expansion and renovation? We should have some kind of direction. I just don't want to do another report, which I have a whole list of them. I got a book that has some other stuff in it. If we haven't decided what direction we want to go. If we just want to repair it and keep it that way, that's one thing. Do we want to repair it? Do we want to deal with the moisture problem? Do we want to make it less humid in there? We have a report that's how you could possibly do it in an unheated building. Do we want to run out? We've got to get some kind of direction that we all agree, and then it makes sense to get some kind of report.
Did you add in the $9,300 we paid in 2019 for Meridian? Did you have that one?
What one?
Meridian Associates.
No, I did not have.
Yeah, we
she
paid
did.
them $9,300 for an engineering study in 2019.
No, that was to come in and conduct the laser measurements, which were mentioned.
Yeah.
That was, but it's assigned as maintenance expense on the levy.
Yeah, I'm just saying
you.
it is, as I looked up, I got my chart on when it was moved. So I think that's important that we make some kind of a direction here, so that when we spend the money, we get a report that we're going to move forward with. I
agree.
And I just don't want to spend money. In terms of the dock, I did get a hold of Luke Freudenberg, who was the person who did the construction of the dock in 2014, and the ramp was done in 2017. Mm-hmm. The dock is 2 cribs with pilings, also pounded in the 4 corners of the outside crib. This was done as this dock is not bubbled to maintain the access for snowmobile. Mm-hmm. He felt the decking is in good shape, so it would be easy to take up. The edges were broken. You probably could put a border around it. Once the decking was pulled up, you could adjust it to make it look good. You could straighten out the pilings. So I think that is doable. And the reason I wanted to find out about the ramp, he has another section of the ramp, so we could extend the ramp.
He's got more of those plates.
One more section.
The question is, do we have to bid that?
I think we do. I've just got it for information, just like all the other reports. Here's a report on what that is. Absolutely. If we're going to go out for anything, spend, what is it, 5,000 or 2,000 for when you have to go out to bid?
10.
Well, you guys do have the flexibility to waive that if you so desire. We should, anything over 10,000, we should get 3 bids. Anything, I believe it's over 100,000, we should put an RFP.
What did we do with Mast Landing? How did that work?
That was a grant.
It was a grant, Can we get one maybe for the levy?
Okay.
I don't know. I'm with Linda. It needs to get fixed. The mechanism of getting the dock fixed, let's just figure out how to do it, recommend it to the Board of Selectmen, and start the process.
Brad?
Yeah, there's one thing I didn't mention when I was talking about this. Part of H.L. Turner's thing, too, was going to be to get an update of the measurements of the building movement, too. Especially looking at that back wall there where that's kind of buckled out now. Be very interested to know how much that's moved since the last measurement was done, which was 2019, I believe you said. So it's been, 5 years. The way that's buckled out, I would assume that has been more recent than, than earlier on with that happening. And regarding timber framers, preservation timber framers, I've been in contact with them 2 or 3 times here. We just haven't been able to connect to get them up here to look at the floor. We do have a plan to access that so they don't have to crawl in through those accesses in the front there and go all the way to that back corner, climbing over all the rocks and all the snakes that are living in and out of there and everything, which...
Critters.
Critters, yeah, that's a critter.
How high off
But
the...
wait a minute, let me finish up here while I've got my mind working on it, Brian. So back in that corner there where we know there's a soft floor there, we're going to cut an access into the floor there. When it's open, frame it up so it'd be like a trap door there to get access back under there. And that'll give them a point to get in there to repair, take a look, assess what's going on with the framing under the floor, get it repaired without having to go all the way under there and give us access to, that back corner of the building there. So did want to mention those.
So the back of the building, the wall is at ground level, and then towards the front, it's 3 or 4 feet or 3 feet off the ground? How big is how deep is the crawl space, I guess?
I think it varies in there. It's probably no more than 3 feet anywhere.
Less than that.
Less than that.
I mean, those things are really, we have a porch where we have our plumbing and lake house. That's no fun thing to go underneath
You're not
there.
going to get all dressed up on your Sunday to go to meat
You
and
will come out looking very good. It just is not, and it's not a good position to really take a look at anything.
And there's no ventilation under there, so there's a moist ground that just
Well, there's
sits there.
ventilation there.
Underneath?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all ledge.
So I think I'm with Paul. There's some things we should do right now.
Yep.
But there's this bigger question of what we want to do with this facility before we go out and spend a bunch of money. And we need to answer that. It's late tonight. Do you want me to put this on the next agenda and we give you some time to think? Do we want to make this control the moisture? Do we want to make it have museum-quality air? And if we do, we did have a plan that put a small addition on the back that would address, I think at that point we felt the foundation, that where you're having the problem without doing a big renovation. It was about $600,000 cheaper. It's going to be expensive, but somewhere we're going to need to do that, make that decision. So it's up to you. It's 9:30 now. Do you want to talk about it more now, or would you like to have some time to think and put it back on the next time?
Linda?
Yeah?
I would like to discuss it more. There's logical options here. Leave it alone, let it fail. It's one option. Fix it completely. It's another option. And then do do some mid-grade option. Price those 3 out. But that's a conversation about our appetite to spend that kind of money on either one of those. And then the first one, let it fail, really would be, you have to then go talk to somebody about why you defaulted on the trust. But the do now stuff, I don't think there is, at least I don't have an appetite for sitting around and waiting to not do now some things that could be done now.
I don't have any problem with the do-nows.
The fix the dock is a do now. Right? It's for the benefit of the boaters and the fix it. And we have to do that at the Board of Selectmen level, right? So
Yeah, we're going to go, I'm just trying to find out.
Get the assessment of the lead paint. I think, Jim, you're in that, right? You're in the lead and the air quality. That's going to answer a question whether we have a safety issue for people. Scrape and paint, tidying up the landscape, I'm not thinking that's a huge amount of money. There was a slide missing. I missed the slide here, which is we should talk about. These are things that I just think we need to get done. The question is, who's going to do it? Is it going to be Steve? Who does it? We don't have an answer. Well, I think Jim and us have been talking about this as a part of the workshop. We need to have somebody who carries around a badge that says, I'm responsible for building maintenance. But we need to figure that one out. But I think the do-nows are, I'd recommend we do them. And that's a motion as a Libby trustee.
Have we in the past thought about?
There's a motion on the table.
If it's a decision it was just to do those as the trustees and then come out as a, okay. So will you repeat that again?
I'm sorry, again?
Would you just repeat it? I was thinking.
I would like to do now, start the process of repairing the docks, addressing lead paint and moisture,
Okay.
not moisture, but mold, addressing the soffit repairs, addressing the, what was the other one I had? Soffits, it was on my list.
Landscape?
The paint on the building, painting the building and the stairs, and tidying up the landscape. Those are things I think we should do now, and I'd put that in a motion.
Second for discussion.
Thank you.
Okay.
The issue is you can paint it 1,000 times and you can remove the mold 500 times. Unless you get rid of the moisture, you're just throwing money against the wall and letting it run down with the rest of the moisture of the building. Has the trustees in the past ever considered an air conditioning system in the building?
There's a whole study on how to address moisture in an unheated building. We have a study of that. I mean, there is that one, you know. So
Because
that was putting in,
the way to control moisture is with an air conditioning system.
okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'd like to move us along. We've still got a non-public to go. That's why I was trying to move some of this over to the next meeting. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, 4-1. Brian's opposed. All right. Anything else we have to do here and the Libby, can we move out to the Board of Selectmen?
Move that we move into the Board of Selectmen.
Okay, got a motion by Paul.
Second.
Second by Brad to come out of the
Trustees.
the Libby trustees. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All right, now we're in public. I'm assuming, Paul, you want to make the same motion?
That is correct.
Do I have a second?
Second for discussion.
Okay.
I just think we're throwing money after something without knowing what we're doing. I mean, yeah, okay, let's paint it again, let's get another study, let's do this, let's do that, let's do the other thing, and it will be in the same condition 6 months or 12 months from now. So I guess let's drop 40,000, 50,000 into it and let it fall apart again next week. Whatever.
I would like to get some kind of a cost estimate. All right, Brad.
Yeah, I think when we get that report back on the mold and the lead paint is going to govern a lot as to what it's going to cost to do, especially the exterior painting, because you're going to get into remediation. If it's all lead paint in there, it's going to be a whole different, painting contractor and contract versus just, throwing paint on a building. And I think once we get the mold issue, a report back is going to talk to us also about the moisture. And we can, at that time, explore avenues for ventilation to try and address that. Dave can answer this a lot better than I can, but trying to control air quality in an uninsulated, unheated building, I think is fairly difficult. You need to have some climate control in there to be able to do that. So that would have to be looked at to know what kind of money we'd be talking about, I think. You know, you make a good point on that.
Are you done?
Yeah, that's pretty much covers it.
There's a part of that I agree with Brian. I'll tell you, we have put an air conditioner in one room at the lake, no insulation, anything, but it really does take the moisture out. I think we need to do this, but I don't want to, at the board level, approve this going forward until we have a cost estimate on what we're looking at.
Agreed.
Makes sense.
Huh?
That would make sense.
So I would make a motion that we get a cost estimate for fix the dock, assess the air quality, which we're already doing, assess the paint. That's already in. Is that being done, or do we?
We already had a motion.
There's already a motion and a second, so we got to get rid of that first.
Okay, all right. The motion is to do these jobs. We have Paul and Brian. Paul made it. All those in favor of doing these jobs?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
No. Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we get the cost estimate for fixing the docks, fixing the soffits, the cost to scrape and paint those areas that need to be done, and landscaping. And I'm not going to add those other two because we've already started those process, the air and the lead. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's my motion.
Second.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Brian.
I was going to say, for discussion here on getting an estimate for the painting, we'd obviously be waiting until we heard back on the lead testing that was done, so we know what we're up against, obviously.
Yes, absolutely. 'cause
That should be coming soon.
That would have what kind of an estimate you get. Absolutely, Brad.
So
I just want to make sure.
Just so that we're clear, so while we do that, we're okay. It could take a week, could take a month, could take a handful of months. We're okay with water leaking into the building.
Well, we need to,
I'm just saying, we're okay with that. We should be doing it now.
That's fix the soffit is in there, you know?
Get a cost estimate for it.
Yeah. I mean, if you have to take, I don't have it, yeah, I do. I want the cost estimate. That's the motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Paul, you voting? Abstain, one abstention. Okay. I will put a issue on the next agenda. We'll revisit the Libby. Hopefully, we'll have some of those things back.
And we can do that as select board members, right? The future of the Libby.
That's where I was going to put it on the agenda.
Yeah, okay, good. Thank you.
I'm not doing it as a...
No.
Okay?
Good, thank you.
All right. I got to write these down. I got two. All right. Other business. Anybody have any other business? Oh, let's go right by that. Town manager's report.
Couple items. I already informed you about my conversation with Jason Ayotte from New Hampshire DOT. Attended a budget committee meeting end of last month. Steve Johnson has been appointed to the budget committee to fill Selectman O'Brien's spot, which has been vacated. I'd like to extend a thank you to the staff that participated in making the 4th of July a great event in the community. And lastly, the town is currently without a planner. That's all I have.
Okay. Committee reports. Let me start with Dave.
The only thing I had was Conservation Commission. It was Monday night.
Okay. Brad?
Yeah, let's see, last week we had a planning board meeting. We had a Wolfeboro Waters meeting and attended a chamber social down at Cape Park with the Chamber of Commerce. That was very nice location there for that. That was it for me.
Paul?
No reports.
Brian?
So, since our last BOS meeting, we had a budget committee meeting. And again, Steve Johnson was appointed. That was a good thing. You tap him back. I went to a senior bingo, and I found it a lot of fun. I went to the senior lunch and helped serve. Then we had an EDC housing meeting. There was only a couple of us there, and talked about how it's not just about creating affordable housing, which everybody focuses on. It's about the whole housing complex in the town right now. I don't know if it's true, but I've heard that the last phase of Harriman Hill is under hold again because of financial reasons. So that's one piece to it. We have the short-term rentals, which is another piece to it, and then we have the lack of apartments and affordable housing. We had a cable franchise committee meeting, and we talked about two things that are big. In one, Jim, help me with this one, Jim, the bond value for the cable franchise agreement. That's something that we're looking at increasing those monies, correct?
It's a conversation that needs to be discussed, that's correct.
Yeah. And we were working on the term of the agreement, and did we finalize it as a 6 years yet, or is that still under discussion?
No, I'm supposed to come back to the committee when they meet next, which I don't remember the date, August 2nd maybe.
Yeah.
And provide you with a series of data points relative to a contract term and bond amounts and et cetera.
Yeah, we're getting very, very close, and it's a good thing that that we're finally putting that to bed. I marched in the parade and passed out flyers for Lake Winnipesaukee Day with some help from an EDC member and 3 wonderful little 8 to 12-year-olds. So, and that was a lot of fun.
Okay, I had 2 Friends of Wayland meeting. I attended the library trustees meeting, their summer cards, which the summer residents come in, it's 3 months, went up 50%. They've added summer programs. The library is moving right along. It seems to be one of the popular venues in town. I attended a Zoom meeting of the advisory committee of the Wolfeboro Bay Watershed Management Plan, and we received an update. Last night, Wolfeboro met, and it continues to secure performers and events for December 31st. I went to the Budget Committee meeting. Wolfeboro Waters discussed how to inform the public that everyone has a role, and Julie coming here tonight was part of that education. I went to the Chamber Social. It was down at Town Park. It was to celebrate Avery Insurance 125 years of servicing the town of Wolfeboro. I attended the American Legion sock hop. There were about 175 people there. They had an outstanding band, and the venue worked perfectly, had good acoustics, so people who want a place to hold an event, Pop Whalen's the place. And I want to say we had a great 4th of July parade and great fireworks, and thank all our staff who made that possible and kept us safe. That's all I have. All right, questions from the press?
Alyssa is not on.
Okay, public input.
Thank you. Brody DeShays, I live on Elm Street. So I just want to say first, I think you guys chose the 3 most qualified candidates. When you guys read it, all the names in the resumes for the ad hoc committee for the ambulance, those were clearly, if I was on the board, I would have made that decision, chosen those 3 candidates. So I also do want to say, though, I don't think it would have been at all a conflict of interest or any ethical issue if I had served on the committee, if my father was on it. I do agree, though, there could have been at least some people's perception they may not have liked it, but I don't think it would have been an issue. I will say, though, as to the committee, I don't think 16 weeks is going to be enough time. We hired a library director, and it took us almost 7 months. How you're going to decide the next 50 years of an ambulance service in this town, or even, let's say, 20, I don't think you could do it. I think you come up with a provisional plan. I think you come up with something short-term to help, make sure the town's covered and make sure it's affordable and limit the future costs possibly, but I don't think you're going to have a long-term sustainable plan. And I think the two options in front of us, or at least that have been in front of the town, and I've reviewed some of the bids and some of the contracts, I don't think the taxpayers have found them to be affordable, and that was clear at the last deliberative session. I also wonder, because one of the options is the town entering into the ambulance business. It's not that I don't think, we have one of the most capable fire chiefs, I think, in the entire state, if not the region. It's not that I don't think that we would be capable of doing it. I just don't think the labor market exists for us to be able to sustain that. That's why so many towns have started pooling together. Or even in Cheshire County, the entire county has started its own ambulance and EMS service to address this issue and use ARPA money to start it. So I would say there's been many more success stories of towns coming together and addressing this long term, or even towns coming up with creative hybrid models of some municipal and some private. Those are starting to seem to be the more sustainable things based on the labor market and the cost and inflation. I don't, so that's going to be, that would have been my input on the entire committee, but based on to Paul's point, how short of the time was, I don't think that committee would have been afforded the opportunity to consider more sustainable, more favorable options to the taxpayers. I think the board and that committee owes to the taxpayers to consider those options, but if the deadline's December 1st, then it is what it is, but I just don't know if that'll work. I also want to say, as to the question about the sidewalks, would that also pertain to the sidewalk on Elm Street, that gravel sidewalk? Those regulations that you guys adopted tonight? Because let me put it this way, that gravel sidewalk is all easements.
Our policies, we don't respond to public input in the board.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I want to flag that because, I walk on that gravel side. It needs some work, but I know historically it's been controversial when the town has wanted to make those more standard sidewalks that are ADA compliant. It tends to be more of a pathway, and there's a lot of erosion, especially at Dead Man's Corner there, right across from my house, and I don't know how those regulations would fit into that. And the last thing is I think the Libby Museum, I think we spend a lot of money on that as taxpayers, and I don't see the return on investment. That's just my opinion. I know the town has a fiduciary responsibility, at least the selectmen as trustees, but I'm starting to really question whether or not the town should be continuing to invest in this rather than investing in an exit plan, because that might end up saving us a lot more money and being able to find people who would be a lot more passionate to help fund it rather than forcing taxpayers to subsidize it. So that's all. Thank you.
Any other public input?
Bobby Budman, it was a long time to wait. I just want to go address the sidewalk again, as I was on the ad hoc committee, and I just want to point out again, I know you probably didn't mean it the way you said it, but we have to discuss the ADA. And I know you said we'll put it over here, and I know that's not you saying that you're not thinking of it, but we have to address the ADA. We have to talk about the fact that those cars park over the sidewalk. We have to talk about the fact that we want young families here. We have people who come in with strollers with their families. Even strollers can't get down these sidewalks. So when you consider writing your proposal, please consider the cars that are parking over the parking lot, and consider it's not just ADA, it's strollers. Double-wide strollers can go up to 50 inches. And I'm not saying we have to completely accommodate every stroller, but we do have things we need to accommodate. Speaking of families, I want to just mention the single track when you were speaking about that tonight. We don't do those trails, right? We don't do the work. The nonprofit goes in there and they do the work for us. So I don't understand why we wouldn't be welcoming an easy trail so our children can get on those trails and ride their bikes, just like widening Abenaki and giving them an extra ski hill to go down. Having green trails and easy trails to introduce children to be outside and recreating, isn't that what we want to do in our town? I mean, we're the oldest summer resort. Let's give people a place to resort. So I just think you should consider families when you're making decisions about trails, especially when it's a nonprofit doing the work. Thanks.
Okay, I need a motion to go into non-public.
So move.
Do I have a second? Brad, all those in favor?
Aye.
Yes, yes, yes.